Hey everybody, welcome back to The Stuff of Legend. My name is D-Lo and I have a pretty fun video for you today. Now, today's video is going to be about how somehow Kathleen Kennedy remains employed after this ginormous debacle that has gone down regarding the Gina Carano firing and all sorts of, actually I would just say even just the absence since the event speaks louder than most of the arguments against this whole thing. Like, for people that have been supporting Gina Carano, it has been nonstop Twitter trending. Let me go ahead and shift my screen for you guys. What's up, guys? It's been a little bit. You guys can see Grogu popping in right here on the side. Got my Mando helmet in the background. I got some stuff in the background. You can let me see if you can see what's going on here. Hopefully I can adjust that so you guys can see all this stuff going on in the background, and you can see the mess on the sides as well. But that's something there for you. I got some fun in the background. I'm not going to be telling anybody here to hashtag cancel Disney Plus if you don't want to, for one reason specifically, is because if you do want to keep your Disney Plus, do it. It's a free country. And also, it is unfortunately tied directly to the Marvel content, which will also suffer if you cancel Disney Plus. I personally am getting really sick and tired of the way that Lucasfilm is being thrown around like it's a bag of garbage, and they literally know that if they do anything, it's going to get money, and people are going to pay good money for it, even if it sucks and it's trash and they don't care. That's a huge bummer to me, but I really want to see Lucasfilm returned to its former glory, and I believe that John and Dave are the way to do this. This is the way, in my opinion. But I wanted to show you guys some fun stuff. So first thing on the to-do list, let's go ahead and show you what's going on with this. So you guys have probably already seen this. I haven't made a video on this yet because I have been waiting to show you guys what's going on. It was a really emotional thing for me when the whole Gina Carano thing came out, because I made a video when this whole thing first broke out. I think it was the day after it had happened, because Gina Carano was one of my favorite characters on The Mandalorian. My favorite episode, possibly still to date, I'm still trying to weigh out my exact order of favorite episodes. Season 2 was amazing, but I still love the episode where Bryce Dallas Howard directed it. They were on that secondary forest planet, and they met Gina Carano's character on that planet. I really loved that story. It reminded me a lot of Return of the Jedi, which is my favorite Star Wars film. And I just had such a good time watching that episode. I really loved that. And then again, Bryce Dallas Howard's episode in the next season was also amazing. That's the one where we get to meet Bo-Katan. So I'm really upset about it. I'm going to try to keep my emotions down, but I'm going to have fun with this one, because you can see just how the fans are winning on this one. And I don't think it's going to be very long before Bob Chapek changes his mind. What is he going to change his mind on? I will show you later. I'm going to play the clip from the shareholders meeting so you guys can hear exactly what was said. But Kathleen Kennedy says a really funny and interesting statement here that gets ratioed to heck, which means there's far more dislikes than likes. And you can't see that right now because they turned it off, but I wanted to show you. A lot of people took screenshots of this to show that when this thing came out, there was far more dislikes than likes. Not just because it's Kathleen Kennedy, not because the fans are toxic, but because what she says is absolutely downright hypocritical when she's talking about females being empowered in film and how females are going to be winning awards this year at the Oscars.
A brave, bold future without limits for each and every storyteller.
A brave, bold future for each and every storyteller. Hey, let me just cut this out.
Every year.
Hey, what did I just say? Go back. There we go. So she makes that statement, a brave, bold new future for women in film and technology, except for she underhandedly lies to the media and then has Gina Carano fired by way of public character assassination based on lies, libel, slander, none of which was true. In fact, they're still running the false headlines to this day. And that was what I had seen in my video. You guys can go back and check that out. But I actually had, let me see if I have, I'm not going to pull it up. You guys have seen it. But basically, a month ago, I made that video about Disney firing Gina Carano. And I was absolutely correct in the assessment. But what happened the days following that was a bunch of people started that I had worked with before, even promoted on this channel, not people like Nerdy Blurb TV or Comic Man Jake, those guys are legends, but there was some people who had started campaigns of slander against me for standing up for Gina, just simply saying that she did not say the things that the media is saying. And they were lying and they were slandering me the same way that they do for her, which was a bizarre thing for me. But I wanted to take a step back. I stopped making videos for a little bit just because I had gotten to a point where I was like, okay, I'm very upset about what's going on, not just for Gina, but also the way that things are turning around on people. People are turning against people, which, by the way, is exactly what Gina said, was that people are being taught and manipulated to hate one another for their differing views. She was absolutely correct. And she wasn't racist. She wasn't these things. Ben Shapiro did a whole video debunking all of that malarkey, which, by the way, I had said before, but it's helpful when an Orthodox Jew is the one telling everybody, hey guys, it's not anti-Semitic. So that's, you know, that's also helpful, but it's hard to deny that. Now, with Kathleen Kennedy coming out, she gets ratioed to heck. They turned off the numbers, so you can't see whether or not it's being liked or disliked more or less. They disabled that, so you're not able to see that. And she hasn't been publicly seen or heard from since. She's been completely off the grid, not answering to anyone regarding the firing, not making a statement about the firing, but she is just avoiding everything. And what's really, really funny to me is when Bob Chapek comes out, I can play you guys the clip really quick. There was two statements made. I'll let you hear them for a second. At the shareholders meeting just this last week, I believe it was. And of course, at a shareholders meeting, you're talking to the people that pay your bills. They're the guys that are putting the money down so that Disney can have oodles and oodles of cash and then make the content, the products, the services that they do, from parks to toys to everything, movies, TV. And Lucasfilm is under that banner. Now, Bob Chapek is the top dog. And so he's, of course, addressing questions from the shareholders. And these shareholders are obviously not stupid. They can see what's going on. They know that not only did Gina Carano not say the things that the media is saying, but even just having a reference to pre-WW2 Germany at all, there was worse things said to the effect closer to what the media was slandering, and this coming from Pedro Pascal. Even Mark Hamill has compared our former president, President 45, to the German leader of WW2. So if you guys can see the hypocrisy there, guess what? So could the shareholders, and these questions started to come up. Now, the blacklist question is right here. You'll hear this right now.
Go ahead.
Hey, Bob. This is Matt from High Point, North Carolina. I have been a shareholder since I was a kid and am a 2012 alumni at the Disney College program. And the specific park I work for is Disney's Hollywood Studios in Orlando at Walt Disney World. And my question is specifically about the college program. Do you have any idea when...
Hold on. This is the wrong time frame. What is the timestamp on this? It should be 44. That's what it is. That was a different question. Here we go.
Disney plus actors Pedro Pascal and Gina Carano tweeted similar analogies of current political events to Nazi Germany. Yet only Carano, who is considered a conservative, was fired from The Mandalorian. Regarding Disney and a blacklist, this is the way?
So this shareholder basically calls out the blacklisting of conservatives from Disney projects, specifically about the firing of Gina Carano, especially being that the comparison was so similar, or at least the claim of the comparison was so similar to what had already happened in actuality, in real life, from Pedro Pascal, another person from the same show, and yet still that person has a job and a future in the company, and Gina doesn't. So he's saying this is the way, is a snarky way of saying, is this the policy that Disney holds from now on? Is the blacklist legitimate? Is this how you feel? And is this something that Disney officially approves of? Now, of course, this is a shareholders meeting. And if you take the time like I did to listen to the entire thing, even questions that were pointed like this one, that were trying to ask legitimate questions with legitimate concerns regarding the company, regarding policy, issues that were potentially bummers, like there was some people that were part of an education program for employees that were about to age out. They were no longer going to be part of it. They wanted to know if there was a possibility to be grandfathered into that, even though they weren't going to be part of the, like, what the actual requirements were going to be. They were past the time or the age limit. And Bob Chapek, with all the confidence in the world, because that's what these shareholders meetings are all about, confidence. We've got this. We're getting bigger. Everything's making money. We're doing great. And we've got so much more to show you. We can't wait. Keep funding us, please. That's the whole point of a shareholders meeting, is to be like, look at our massive success, and we have so much more coming. Stay invested and keep investing. That's the whole point. So they're not going to say anything negative. They're not going to have any kind of negative opinion or thing to say that is in any way going to bring discouragement to the shareholders or doubt in their investment, right? That's the whole point. And a salesman like Bob Chapek knows exactly what that's all about. So this is his answer.
Well, thank you for your question. I don't really see Disney as characterizing itself as left-leaning or right-leaning, yet instead standing for values that are universal, values of respect, values of decency, values of integrity, and values of inclusion.
You see, this is really funny because, albeit they may see it that way, but they are also the parent company of Lucasfilm, who is behaving in the manner that was brought up by this shareholder. They are clearly blacklisting at least conservative thought online. If you're an employee of Disney, you have to surrender your free speech. It's like, okay, what about Gina Carano? She didn't say anything that was actually controversial. The media mob on Twitter made a big deal out of it, and it has since come out that this is all due to the firing of Gina Carano through the media by someone higher up in either Lucasfilm or Disney. This could be a firing at the hands of Bob Chapek, but I think more likely it's Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy is a weasel, and she has cowardly not appeared at all in any kind of interviews to make any kind of statements to put to rest any of the concerns of anybody, anyone who's a fan, anyone who's buying product from them. She only wants to push her ideology of critical race theory, identity politics, these types of things into Star Wars and Star Wars projects, including the High Republic. I'll show you more about this later. But I mean, she hires people that for one have prejudice against people with white skin. That's something that she does. That's something that Disney does. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. There's a direct example that I can give you up ahead. But with this, Chapek just spins the question so that he's like, you know what? We don't consider ourselves right-leaning or left-leaning. We consider ourselves to stand for universally good. Like, basically, we stand for universal morals. Like, we just stand for good. Well, what did he say right here? I keep forgetting what he said. The words were,
as well as the pandemic. And I think
Disney plus actors paid for
universal
values that are universal. That's what it was. So he says values that are universal. And this is something that is funny because he goes ahead and he starts talking about about diversity, which of course, like, people equate like diversity as the opposite of racism. And it's like, if you go to, like, I don't know, let's just use as an example, Oregon. There's a lot of white folks in Oregon, a lot of white folks. There's other people there, other people with different skin, people who look different, talk different, walk different, whatever. But there's a lot of white folks there. It doesn't make them inherently racist. If you see someone that, you know, espouses certain hateful beliefs and they carry those out against other people with acts of violence or acts of prejudice, that's one thing. But if you were like, they're going to be racist until there is an even number of people of all different skin colors in Oregon, then you'd be like, dude, that's like, what are you going to do? Like, segregate people from their families and force them to live in that place until there's an exact number? There's not an even number of represented people in the United States of different of colors to begin with. Like, there's majority white in the nation. You know, we're a majority European descent nation. That's just what it is. Now, that's not to say that that's what it should be. That's not to say that's what it will be. That's not to say that that's even the direction that we're going in right now. My dad is Hispanic descent, Native American descent. My mom is European descent. I'm mixed. You wouldn't know that from looking at me, but that's because you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge people by the color of their skin. But it's funny because like they subtly say we're not of the left, we're not of the right, but we stand for values we consider universal, and the values that they consider universal you see in their practice, right? Actions speak louder than words, and what you see from Disney is pushing critical race theory into all of their projects, especially starting with the Lucasfilm, which has been like their beta test to see if they can get that injected into absolutely everything. And Kathleen Kennedy has been at the forefront of this test, I believe. It's my personal opinion. But a lot of people, other than myself, have seen this. Now, there is another question on this side. I'm going to go ahead and play this one for you. This one was pointed directly at Bob Chapek, specifically about the firing of Kathleen Kennedy.
Greetings and salutations. Are you guys looking at firing Kathleen Kennedy or asking her to resign and promote somebody like Filoni or Favreau or both as a co-counsel?
Thank you for your question, George. We've been absolutely thrilled that we can have the kind of creative talent in our company, the likes of Kathy Kennedy to run Lucas. And we look forward to having Kathy directing the activities of the entire Lucasfilm organization for many years to come. Thank you for your question. Next question, please.
He dodges it so quick. He's all, we're going to have Kathleen Kennedy directing all of our Star Wars projects for many years to come. Thank you very much. Next question. So basically he said, again, keep in mind, it's a shareholders meeting. This wasn't addressed directly. It would get out to the press eventually. He didn't give this address directly to the press. He gave this address to the shareholders, the people that he needs to have confidence in Disney in order to keep the funds flowing in, right? If you give any doubt whatsoever, it's going to be bad. But also, here's another thing, and I do praise Bob Chapek for this at least. Let's say he is on the fence, or there are discussions about who should be running Lucasfilm based on the fact that Solo lost money. The fans are clearly upset about not only the firing of Gina Carano, but also the general leadership that she's had, blaming the fans, calling fans toxic, man babies, not being able to get a cohesive story, losing all verisimilitude for the sequel trilogy, it just not making sense with itself, and then everyone being upset, of course, at Finn losing his entire plot line in the sequel trilogy because China's racist. So that's all these things. Kathleen Kennedy, with Kathy, the buck stops somewhere else. She does not take responsibility for herself. Bob Chapek covered her butt here. He said, even though we haven't heard from her, she got ratioed extremely bad at the Oscars, and they stopped it when it was at 7,000 dislikes to like 80 likes. I think we have that ratio right here. Yeah, 81 to 7.2. And I think that might be the highest one that I've seen before they shut the ratio down. And they said, you know what, we're not going to show those anymore because that's wicked embarrassing. And Kathleen Kennedy is making our video look really dumb. So they go ahead and do that. And then this pointed question, Bob Chapek's not going to tell the truth if they're considering firing her. He's not going to do that right here. This is not the place for that for two reasons. It's going to cause doubt for the shareholders, and it's going to cost the company money directly this day. And if he is planning to fire her, that is the inappropriate way to announce that they're going to fire Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy did that crap. I believe it was Kathleen Kennedy did that crap to Gina Carano. She did that to Gina. She went to the press and told the whole world that Gina was fired except Gina. Gina found out through the press. And then she found out because she logged into Twitter and saw that it was trending. It's like, it's a really nasty, snake-like, greasy way to tell someone that they're fired. And not just fired, but it's fired from everything. You're fired. You can't even work in Hollywood anymore. You have been blacklisted, which is what the other shareholder had said the first time. So with that, I think it's just really funny. Like, at least he had, if there is a possibility, and I do think there clearly, I think in my opinion, there is a possibility that he is still thinking about what to do with Lucasfilm. There is a huge problem here, and it's costing him money. And money is how they operate. Money is their whole thing. That's what Disney's all about. Money. You please the customer, you please the fans. Why? Money. But you can also screw the fans if they're still paying you. And if they're paying you, if they haven't canceled Disney Plus, then you can keep screwing with your fan base and keep screwing, doing whatever you want. And unfortunately, I think that's what is happening. I think she's going to probably be in discussion soon. They can't afford to get rid of John and Dave, because if they lose John and Dave, there's going to be a serious revolt. There will be no fans left. It'll be people on Twitter who pretend to be fans. It'll be a bunch of stans you'll see that'll be out there just like, oh, hooray, rah, rah, Ray is the greatest, and it's going to be just a bunch of people that don't have money, really. People that have money, like, I don't know, maybe yours truly, over time spend a good deal on Disney, on Marvel, on Star Wars. People who have money, who have jobs, who have kids, families. Most of us grew up with the original trilogy and therefore hated The Last Jedi. Or those of us who love Luke Skywalker loved The Mandalorian Season 2 and probably enjoyed a lot of the original characters that came from there. Bill Burr's character, Gina Carano's character, Carl Weathers' character. These characters and all three of those actors have spoken in, well, I guess Carl Weathers didn't really speak up about it, but he did share something that was remotely positive, including Gina Carano in that post after she had been fired, and he's the only one who did that. No one else has done that, so props to Carl Weathers. Doesn't make him right-wing, doesn't make him conservative, doesn't make him a Republican, doesn't make him anything, and even if it does, who cares? But nevertheless, it doesn't make him any of those things to just stick up for a friend and be like, hey, here's a promo that we all did together, me, Pedro Pascal. And by the way, I don't want Pedro Pascal fired or canceled. I hope you guys don't get the wrong impression here. I don't want him fired. I don't want him canceled. I think he's awesome. I think he's great. Anyone can have any view they want, political, personal, conspiratorial. You can have any view you want. Because it's you. It's your free thought. Like, that's what we're all about. That's what America's all about. Unfortunately, Disney's all about what China's all about. And they're all about totalitarian dictatorship. You can't have your own thoughts or you're fired. And that's what they're all about. So unfortunately, Pedro Pascal's thoughts do line up lockstep entirely up and down the coast of all political views. All of them line up with the extreme far left and Disney. Mark Hamill's does as well. But you also see people that are just free thinkers or that don't want to get involved with politics. They have to either shut up entirely or they get canceled. And that's unfortunately what we saw. I do want to jump over and show you guys some of these things. It's really funny to me when you see the quote from Bob Chapek, "We've been absolutely thrilled that we can have the kind of talent that Kathy Kennedy, Kathy Kennedy to direct Lucasfilm. We look forward to having Kathleen Kennedy running the Lucasfilm organization for many years to come." I think that this was just making something up on the fly to cover for her so that they don't lose money with the shareholders or lose confidence with the shareholders. That's a very big deal. But I do think that there's going to be serious discussions about Kathleen Kennedy's the quality of her work and also her results. Like, what are the results of what she's done? Now, she's made a lot of money for Lucasfilm, but let's be honest, if anyone puts out a new Star Wars film under the Lucasfilm banner, it's going to get attention. You're not going to be able to not get attention with a new Star Wars film. It's just not going to happen. Solo lost money because when The Last Jedi came out, fans boycotted. Fans dropped off in droves from The Last Jedi because it was hot trash. I mean, it was a beautiful film as far as cinematics filmmaking goes, but unfortunately, they doubled back on every piece of character development for every single character that mattered. They also decided to sideline Finn entirely in the story and just pretend that he was not the one that the Force had awoken in The Force Awakens. They decided to make Luke Skywalker some unrecognizable and hopeless. That's the worst part, I think, is that he was a symbol of hope. Now he's completely hopeless. He used to stand entirely for family in an undying fashion, and then his nephew has a bad dream and he tries to murder him in his sleep. And then he was the one who was going to not only be a Jedi like his father before him, but then you see him again for the first time after a few years, and he's depressed, and he's decided, I cut myself off from the Force. The Jedi must end. It's just not Luke. It's simply not Luke. And this is why people boycotted Solo. Not only that, but it was a Solo movie without Harrison Ford. No one wanted that. Lots of reasons why people boycotted that. Not to mention the Lord and Miller stuff behind the scenes, Kathleen Kennedy failing to get her team on board with this vision for what she wanted. Until the last hour, they'd already burned through their budget. There's so many problems with what made Solo bad, but unfortunately, she's made a ton, and I don't say unfortunately for this next part. She made a ton of money. That's very good for the company. But she has broken the fan base, broken all trust. Nobody trusts her anymore. Her only ticket right now is pushing critical race theory and feminism into Star Wars in a very big way. And if you don't know what critical race theory is, you can look that up. But basically, it tricks people into thinking they're not racist when they're actually being trained to be racist. They're seeing everything in the entire world through the prism of race. Everything has to be about race. White people are this, black people are this, Asians are this, brown people are this. And you are your identity based on your skin color, and that's it. And you have to be this. It's just racist. It's just dumb. And unfortunately, it's being taught everywhere in our schools, in our movies, all throughout Hollywood. And we just got to shake it off. Like, we've got to say no to that garbage. But yeah, this is what she stands for. Now, one more thing I wanted to say is that she is very talented as a producer, but she is garbage when it comes to creative authority. When she has a say in how the film is supposed to be written, the story that is supposed to be told, when she has any influence over those things, the projects always suffer. They always suffer. But one thing that happens, if she can get the right people in place for a project and then just back off and then just not have something to say about the way the story is supposed to be told, it can turn out really well. Like The Mandalorian, like Clone Wars, like Star Wars Rebels. Those things are amazing. They're fantastic. I love those things. And those are all, well, the second part of Clone Wars, but they're all within the Disney umbrella during her reign at Lucasfilm. So you don't necessarily have to outright fire her from the entire Lucasfilm company, but she should be removed from her position as president of Lucasfilm. She should be, I don't know, executive producer, and let Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni run the place. are actual fans. In fact, I know that she is not an actual fan of Star Wars. She doesn't actually know. Well, I'm not saying that you have to read books or comics or play the games to be a fan. There are casual fans who just enjoy the films, and that's totally fine. That's perfect. If you haven't seen this TV shows, that's also fine, but I highly recommend those. Those are great because Dave Filoni made them, and he's a real fan of Star Wars. And when I say real fan, I mean a hardcore fan of Star Wars. Hardcore fans of Star Wars understand that there is plenty of content that goes back decades where there's so much more to the Star Wars extended universe that is no longer canon, but there's also books, novels, comics, and games that are canon. And Kathleen Kennedy is completely oblivious to this. Now, I wanted to see where that quote was. Okay, I think this is the quote here. So Kathleen Kennedy said this ignorant statement here, and it's really embarrassing when the president of Lucasfilm believes this to be the case. She says, every one of these movies, I'm not gonna do the accent, it's funny. I was gonna try to imitate her. That's not right. So I say, every one of these movies is a particularly hard nut to crack. There's no source material. We don't have comic books. Interesting, but they did. We don't have 800-page novels. Interesting. There are novels. I don't know if it's 800 pages, but they have novels. We don't have anything other than passionate storytellers who get together and talk about what the next iteration might be. That is factually untrue. And the president of Lucasfilm ought to know that. We go through a really normal development process that everybody else does. You start by talking to filmmakers who you think exhibit the sensibilities that you're looking for. The sensibilities that you're looking for. What kind of sensibilities do you think she is looking for? It doesn't sound to me like she was looking for people who understood what the original Star Wars trilogy was all about. Yes, Kathleen Kennedy was handpicked by George Lucas. Apparently, she stabbed him in the back. She decided to fundamentally transform Star Wars in her own image, as opposed to continuing on with the stories that had been told. She doesn't have to carbon copy the original plan for George Lucas's Star Wars saga, but she also doesn't have to completely destroy the characters that were there before. There was plenty of other things she could have tapped into. Yuzan Vong, Thrawn even, which was, I think most people wanted to go in the direction of possibly doing a Thrawn, but, they were already kind of in the works at that point, doing the sequel trilogy, or at least starting the process for the sequel trilogy when Thrawn was already, I guess, coming into Rebels. He'd already been in novels, but again, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't know about the novels. So it's really funny to me that she's just this ignorant about the company that she runs. And I think that says a lot. So another thing to point out is Kathleen Kennedy claims Star Wars films have no source material. We already talked about that, and I just showed you the quote for that. But this is just another article that kind of breaks into that, talking about the EU, the extended universe, Star Wars Legends, games, comics, books, novels. Well, novels and books. All these things, they existed. We all know them. We all love them, except for Kathy. She doesn't know them at all. When you get the people that she says have the sensibilities that she does, where was that quote? Here we go. People who really do have the sensibilities about these kind of movies and the experience. She talks about the sensibilities that you're looking for. I think she's actually motivated by something other than love for Star Wars, because she obviously doesn't have that deep of a love connection to Star Wars, significantly less than the casual fan or a common fan. Most common fans are at least aware that there are video games or that there are other stories that have been told. There's a lot of casual fans that don't. Apparently, Kathleen Kennedy is one of those sub-casual fans that doesn't understand any of this stuff. And so the sensibilities she's trying to shove into movies and these Star Wars projects, I fear, are something that produce mediocre work like this. Now, if you guys didn't know, she had fired a couple of, I believe when she got in to Lucasfilm, she got rid of almost all of the writing team and just hired all women for the purpose of having an all-woman writing team. What's wrong with this? Nothing inherently, but when your goal is to do like we talked earlier, to be like, I don't want the best people for the job. I want all women. And your priority is that idea. Your priority is that concept that everyone in the room cannot be a man or we're not doing our best is kind of sexist. But it's also like, if you want to just be like, I'm the person that made the first ever all woman writing team for a Star Wars project, go me. It's like, you're a narcissist. You're just chasing these little trophies you're going to give yourself on Twitter. What does that do for Star Wars? And we see what that does for Star Wars is you end up not having any understanding that there are books, novels, comics, games, and preceding stories or stories written in the past that go into the future of Star Wars that you can base your concepts on. Now, we know that some of these concept writers did take some concepts that were similar to the original, like there was, like Ben Solo, was a concept that was mirrored from the original novels for after Return of the Jedi. There was plenty of concepts that were taken, but they were done worse than the books. It's like, if you're going to take the concept and then make it a little bit different, the goal is to make it better, not worse. And and I do like Kylo Ren, but it just, unfortunately, it's really tough when the last thing that happens is your character Kylo Ren gets this he gets an arc where he gets to kind of finish out his story. He fights the Knights of Ren, which was a little bit lackluster if I'm being honest. It's just, I was hoping for more with the Knights of Ren. So many storylines that were just simply not paid off or not paid off well. And then the last thing is you give the Raylowers, you give those guys like that moment, that ending moment. It's like, oh, like you're going to have him and Rey kiss for absolutely no reason whatsoever. It's like, okay, they're a forced dyad. Does that mean they have to hook up or something? It's like, it's his dying wish to just Rey's reviving wish, I guess. Who initiated that? Which one was that? Was that Rey or was that Kylo? It's so convoluted and so weak and not good. And then Finn just got shoved to the side. It was just awful. Like, I wanted more from Finn. That was a really cool storyline. Stormtrooper turns to the side of good. The Force calls out to him. He's supposed to get trained. And if you don't know that he's supposed to get trained, he was actually the Jedi that the Force awakened. I don't know what the conjugation is for that. But the Disney, if you guys want to check out and confirm what I'm saying to you right now, that Finn was supposed to be a Jedi in the sequel trilogy, check out the Disney Star Wars Lego holiday special for 2020 that came out at Christmas time. They confirm it in that whole plot of that Disney holiday special about the sequel trilogy characters is that Finn is Force sensitive. He was starting to train with a lightsaber. Rey is supposed to be his mentor, and Rey is just having this temper tantrum where she's like, you'll never be ready, and I'm not ready to train you. But then she goes on this whole journey, and then they try to make it be like, oh, she somehow teaches, she steals Obi-Wan's thunder and is now the one that teaches Luke how to use the Force. It's just the Lego saga, so that's not canon, but it's really... The whole point was that Finn is Force sensitive, and they had to degrade it all the way down to the point that it was the Lego saga that recognized it, because China doesn't like black people, and that's why they shrunk his image on the poster for The Rise of Skywalker. That's why they cut his entire storyline to shreds and would not promote him as a character. It's just sad. It's really sad, and this is what you get when you put these identity politics and critical race theory at the forefront, is you get garbage, because the point isn't to make a good character that is black. The point is to make a black character, and you're just trying to make that character as good as you think you can while making the precedent you're preaching on critical race theory and whatever else. And it doesn't work, and it never works. And the only person you're trying to appease is the actual racists across the ocean that don't want anything to do with that. They don't want anything to do with that. And it's just sad. Like, and then they go ahead and scream at the people that like the characters and want to like the characters and call them the things that they really, at the end of the day, they really are the ones that are that. It's convoluted, I know, but you should check it out. Look it up. I'm going to see if I can get to these live questions in a second. I think there might be some. Let me see if I can go to my videos. Hopefully it doesn't make any noise right now. Okay. All right, cool. Daniel's Hot Topics. What's up, dude? I had a feeling you were going to be here. I did not have my monitoring set up yet. But let me go ahead and pop out chat. I'm going to do the pop out so that I can catch up to you. There's a ton of questions here. I'm really excited for that. I wanted to get through a few more points, and I'm going to try to make it a little bit faster than normal, but this one is stupid, and you're going to love it. You probably already seen it if you've been following Star Wars news, but the High Republic has added a new character. It's literally a pet rock. It is hilarious. This is the funniest thing to me because it just shows how stupid the current writers at Lucasfilm are. And I'm not talking about Jon Favreau. I'm not talking about Dave Filoni. I am talking about these goons that are working for Kathleen Kennedy, that are trying so hard to push critical race theory into this. And I genuinely believe that the point of this rock character is because it is not going to have a gender. It's not going to have any kind of physical tether to a biological norm. It's going to be just a block, and it can be whatever it wants. But it's just a rock. It's a rock with a name, Geode. It's not even spelled differently. It's just Geode. Geode, like a rock. And what's dumber too is that the space, this is the navigational pilot. The co-pilot, I think it is Affy. This chick, I think, is Affy. And then Leux, I think the name is. I don't know how to pronounce that. I tried to Google to find out how you pronounce it. No results. Lux, Lux, Leo? Maybe it's Leo with a silent X. I'll say Lux. I'm going to say Lux. Lux, Gyasi, and Affy are the co-pilot of a ship called the Vessel. It's a vessel called Vessel. How creative is that? Hey, what should we name this space vessel? Let's name it the Vessel. Oh my gosh, that's genius. We're going to name this vessel the Vessel. This is so much better than the Millennium Falcon. This is so much better than a TIE fighter or a B-2 bomber or an X-Wing. Let's call this one the Vessel. It's just so silly. This is the grade A writing that we get from Lucas today. This is what we get from this. And the more that I learn about the High Republic, the less excited I am. I am not excited about this at this point. I will give it a shot. Depending on how it looks when a film or TV project comes out for this. But there's more to it that makes me way less excited for many, many reasons I'm going to show you right now. But anyway, you can read about this. It's really dumb. It's just a rock. It's a rock with the nickname Geode. And it's really sad. This is the genius we have coming out of Lucasfilm. Now, what I wanted to show you guys earlier was that they go ahead and they try to call Gina Carano, you're a racist, you're an anti-Semite, for things she didn't say. And it's observable and provable that she is not those things. She even states multiple times that she is not those things. That was not what she meant to say, and the original post is actually quite clear about that. But you also have Disney, after having fired Gina for those false claims about racism, anti-Semitism, it's just not right. Then they come over here and they hire this chick, Christina Ariel, who hates white people. And she calls all white people racist. She's a racist against white people. She's prejudiced against white people. And so look, you see, where did it go? No, that's not it. Where is it? I'll see if I can pull up, or at least show you some of the posts or something. Okay, so there is some cursing here, but you get this guy. I don't know who this is, Jeff Yang. But he shares a story about, he's like, I had my first breathing while Asian moment. Now, granted, if what he says here is true, that's despicable, and that's not good. Not good at all. He says he went out for groceries and an older masked white woman passing by the line shouted "F you" at her for him for no reason. As he stared at her, she pulled off her mask, coughed directly at me, turned on her heel, and walked off. So she goes, "F you," pulls down her mask and goes, "COVID, COVID," and then comes, so like, to me, this almost, and I am not in any way insinuating that this didn't happen, but it does sound so absurd that it to me, when I read this for the first time, it sounded almost to the same degree as the ridiculous claim and the false claim made by Jussie Smollett. Now, this probably really happened. A lot of people are freaking out and acting crazy in supermarkets and stuff like that all the time nowadays because of this, the pandemic. People are just outside their minds right now. So Jeff Yang probably did suffer in this way by some psycho chick. But Christina Ariel's takeaway from this is that white people, all white people, or white people in general with a broad stroke, you white people, effing stop it. Your racism, not this chick. She's not talking about this chick who did the thing. She's talking about pretty much all of us. And she's like, white people, effing stop it. Your racism won't save you. Your ignorance is not an excuse. There is no more innocent until proven guilty. It is now guilty until proven innocent, which is a horrifying, disgusting way to go through life. Disgusting way for a society to operate. This is not good. It's very bad. And there's more. Let me see if I can show you a couple of these things. This video by the infamous Tale is actually quite nice. They go through and talk. They share their opinions on things. But you also see like some people here, like the I Stand with Christina. The I Stand with Christina movement is different from the I Stand with Gina movement for one reason, and one reason specifically. The I Stand with Gina is about anti-bullying. I Stand with Christina seems to be pro-racism. It seems to be actually standing with her for racism, that white people are racist. And this is something that to me it's sad. I think a lot of people are just confused because of this critical race theory business. They think they're taught in schools, in colleges, universities, on television, everywhere they look where there's a screen. A lot of radio programs even push this garbage, but it's teaching people that if you are actually thinking about the whole world in terms of your group identity, not individualism, but group identity, and the hierarchical structure of oppression and we're, you're privileged if you're this, you're privileged. That's racist. If you think that you're better off because you're white, that's racist. You're actually being racist towards people that aren't white. You're saying that white skin is better, and that's factually not true. The opposite isn't true either. Having white skin isn't worse. It's not better though. It's just what it is. God gave us all these colors. We're all his children. Like what? It's not that hard. You don't even have to be religious to recognize that we're all the human race. It's not, there aren't races of humanity. There's not races within human race. It's the human race. We all have different skins, different skin colors, different eye colors, hair, that sort of thing. Facial structures, bone structures. But for the most part, we are in its entirety, we are all human. In its entirety, we are all human. We just look a little different. And that's a good thing because that's the way that God made us. And so, but they don't like that. They don't want to think about that because all they want to do is justify their racism by claiming that everybody else is racist. So it's okay for them to feel the way they feel, because if everyone's racist, they can be racist and just pick one race, and that's somehow less racist than the way that everybody else is in their brain. But it's just not true. There are racists out there, but unfortunately, Christina, you're one of them. And then what was this over here? Yeah, it's like all, and then people do think that they're standing against racism, or at least some of these people do. But really what they do is they're actually saying, if you don't agree that all white people are racist, then guess what? You're a racist. But that's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's also unobservable. So then it says, remember, this is the lie that critical race theory, this person is not, I don't believe this person is innocent. They are willfully ignorant of the truth. Remember, reverse racism isn't a thing. It doesn't exist. You cannot be racist against your oppressors. So you're saying all white people, right? And this is like this is the bonkers thing to me, is that Disney hires people like this. And if you disagree with these guys, you get fired. It's unbelievable. And so that's just like some of the stuff that I was like, I was looking at, like, okay, taking my time. I literally took a month. I was like, I'm going to take a month. I want to take my time, because it's so hard for me, who's a fan of Disney, who's a fan, well, a lot of Disney's content, a fan of Star Wars, a fan of Marvel, and, you know, a lot of the things that have come from this company, to see that they so clearly are completely intolerant, blacklisting, even firing, canceling. You are no longer allowed to work here if you think differently than us. It's like, this is a communist company. It's like this company is literally just taking notes from China. It's ridiculous. And I'm like, and by the way, it's like, you talk to Chinese Americans here, they don't tolerate this stuff. They've left China for a reason. They left because it's horrible over there. You don't have freedom over there, and they know it. And Chinese people on this side, you talk to Cubans, you talk to people that have fled Venezuela, they already know. Like, they know. They're not falling for this stuff. They're like, this is the kind of stuff that crippled our country. We left because of this stuff. The fall is coming. So you're like, okay, geez, like, people are getting, you know, Disney's willing to back these guys, but they're not willing to admit that they have a bias in any way. Bob Chapek said that himself. And then one thing that's interesting that I thought was like, okay, at first I was like, it's purely conservative hate. They hate conservatives. Then I was like, you know what? No, it's not just conservative hate. It's any different thoughts at all. Because this happened, right? So it's like Rosario Dawson is not in any way on the right. She is not conservative. She is not Republican. She's not a right winger in any aspect, in any respect, for any political view that we are currently aware of. This is Cory Booker's girlfriend. Cory Booker ran for a Democratic, as a Democratic candidate for president, right? It's like he was running for president as a Democrat for the DNC. Rosario Dawson was with him on that tour, and she is also a Democrat. A very adamant and vocal Democrat. Very hard left as far as I have seen from her views. But also, what's interesting, if it's true, it's disgusting. There was an allegation against her from a person who says that they came out as transgender to Rosario after Rosario had known her for her entire life as a lesbian. So I guess they go back a really long time. Let me see if I can find it. I'll find the line here that talks about Where is Rosario? Where is it? I'm sorry, I thought I had it highlighted here, but when I clicked up there, it went away. I think this is it. No, wait. Okay, so I guess it says Finley, 55, moved from Beacon, New York to Los Angeles in December 2017 to work as a handyman for the Dawson family and remodel Rosario's personal residence, which promised to him consistent work. He later moved into a North Hollywood home rented by the family and soon after came out to them as transgender. So in case it's a little convoluted, I know a lot of people, including myself, get a little bit like confused about, okay, what's the order here? And in the timeline of things, who was this person when they were contracted and who did they decide they were after, right? So it's like, let me break it down to you in layman's terms. Rosario had a friend who was a lesbian for, they knew for a very, very long time, decades apparently, in New York City, or at least New York. Pretty sure it was, yeah, okay, so it says New York, not New York City, but New York. And Rosario hired Finley to come and live with them in a place on their property to do work on more of their property as a handyman. And Finley accepted. So I guess they started to get into it and they were having some squabbles. And then after a bit of arguing, it's kind of hard to make out because the allegation made by Finley doesn't give us a clear order of events. It seems like this person is leaving a lot out. But then the lawyer comes in and says more down here, or down this way, the attorney. And Mr. Finley had a good relationship with the family, did work with them in New York, and had a good enough relationship that they invited him to California and offered him a living situation and full-time working situation for the family. And Hill said what they did, when they did that, they knew Finley as a lesbian woman. So Finley was a lesbian woman until after they were having some squabbles, decides to come out as transgender, as a man, and demands that they call Finley Mr. Finley. And Rosario allegedly, so we don't know that this is true, actually was like, let me see where the quote is. I don't want to just, okay, so according to Mr. Finley, Rosario would respond to Mr. Finley, "You're a grown woman," despite the fact that it came out. So this sounds really like rude. It sounds really mean, but keep in mind, they did say that they were having some back and forth with some texting, and there was some difficulties. Like this person was insisting, "You need to call me by my pronouns." And it's like, look, you're trying to compel speech while you're living on my property, working for me as my employee. And it's like, yeah, we've known each other for years, but I already know you were a lesbian, and now you're coming out as this. And now you're making demands of me when I'm trying to get you to do work on my property. And I'm even letting you live here. Apparently, I don't know if it was rent free, but they said if you come live with us, you can do work for us. It's guaranteed work. So there's an agreement here, and there was a frustration here as well. So if it's Rosario's fault, that's fine. I'm not here to necessarily defend Rosario, except for, as I understand it, I believe that the case was dropped. But anyway, it says, the suit alleges that in February last year, just months after coming out, Finley was ordered to move out, but refused. So this is the interesting part to me that makes this whole thing sound fishy, was just months after coming out, Finley was ordered to move out, but refused to because there was no legal grounds for his eviction. Wait a second. It's Rosario's home. And if Rosario doesn't want you to live there anymore, I don't think she needs a reason. You just don't get to live there anymore. Find a different place. So they're claiming that because they came out as transgender, Finley believes there's no legal grounds for eviction. Were you finishing the job that you were supposed to do? Because that's never mentioned here if the job got finished. It's never mentioned if they even started the project. It just says that after months. So they decide to come out, and then months after, Finley was ordered to move out. So if it was about coming out and Rosario was just transphobic is what they call it. If she was like transphobic, then guess what? You think she would wait months? If she was like, oh heck no, we're not having any of that in my house, get on out of here. That would have been immediately, but not months after. So why months after? Why months after coming out? Obviously, Finley there is leaving something out of this allegation. And I do believe I read, let me see, was it Rosario Dawson charges dropped? Is this it? No, that's not it. Apparently that's something different. I think she was at a rally outside of Republican. I didn't even know that was a thing. I think this is probably... You know what? Let's go to MSN and just see what they have to say. This one I wanted to try to get answers for you guys, because if I start this one, I don't want people thinking that just because you read it online, it's the case. But you know, if we have certain information from Rosario, then we can at least read that and take that with a grain of salt, or take her at her word, right? She says, I just want to say I understand that and why people were concerned and are concerned. I would be too if I heard some of those claims. But I mean, as we're seeing right now in these past months, just recently, actually, the truth is coming out. Every single claim of discrimination has been dismissed by the person that made them, Dawson commented. So Dawson goes ahead and lets us all know that nothing ever came of that. Nothing ever came of that lawsuit. And by the way, this was back in 2017. So why didn't they ever finish the lawsuit? It's because it didn't happen. They dropped the charges. So every single one of the claims, and by the way, the claims are ridiculous. The claim says, and I'm not saying that it absolutely didn't happen, but Rosario's saying it absolutely didn't happen. And by the way, the person that said it is saying that. So you can take that. Don't take my word, take what they are saying and then make your own determinations. But Finley dropped all of the accusations and charges that were made against Rosario. I guess not charges because he wasn't charged with it, but the allegations. She dropped all the allegations that Rosario and her mom beat her up, dragged her out of a window, threw her down in the street, and was like pummeling her and yelling transphobic stuff at her, like while they're doing this. It's like, okay, Rosario and her mom and Rosario's mom beat her up and pulled her out of the window and beat her up in the street, yelling stuff at her, like sitting on top of her, punching her, stomping on her head. Like, these are the allegations that were made. And then it's like, okay, either these happened and Rosario is an absolutely horrible person, or they didn't happen and she's lying. And this person that she knew for, you know, years as a lesbian in New York decided while she was working for Rosario that I am this now, you have to call me these things. It's like, if that's the case, right? If that's who you identify as, then okay. But did that happen? Because apparently they dropped all of these accusations and the lawsuit never went anywhere. And this was back in 2017. We're in 2021 now, right? So this is a while ago. and it didn't go anywhere because they backed off everything. And Rosario Dawson is now confirming that, hey, they literally they backed off everything. They dropped all discrimination claims. Everything was dropped. Okay, cool. That means Rosario shouldn't be canceled because it's factually not true, right? But the Twitter mob doesn't care. The Twitter mob is an organization of bullies, and I believe these people are probably honestly paid by companies to do their bidding. I think they're actually probably employed by people. That's my theory. I can't prove that, but I think there's a lot of people out there that are just trying to stir the pot for these big companies. Like if they want Gina Carano out, but they don't want to look bad, they go and sick the mob on her and then use that as an excuse to make stuff happen. That's what I think. You guys can let me know what you guys think about that theory in the comments. That's my own personal speculation, no evidence for that, but hey, I think that's probably what happened, especially because Kathleen Kennedy went to the media so that the Twitter mob could rage against her, and that's how they were going to find out. That's how Gina was supposed to find out she got fired. But Bob Chapek said, oh, we're not going to do that to Kathy. We're not going to do that to Kathleen Kennedy. We're going to talk really good in front of the shareholders, and we'll talk about her behind her back. That's what we'll do. Okay, and then again, just so you guys can see this again, the Whitey hater, I'm going to call her a Whitey hater. She's a Whitey hater. Christina Ariel, the racist, is just employed for the Star Wars, the High Republic show. She's just ready to go. Yay, cool. We've got someone working for Lucasfilm that is openly racist, but it doesn't matter because they're racist against the right group or the white group. You can be racist against white people because these people are taught that racism is okay if it's the approved group. And right now, the approved group is white. We'll see if that changes at any point. I hope to God it doesn't and it goes away entirely. Okay. And oh yeah, this is just a reminder of how gnarly this chick is. It's just, look at, she says, just a reminder that white women are just as complicit in the upholding and enforcing white supremacy. I think this is evil. And I unfortunately think that Christina Ariel is either extremely brainwashed by this critical race theory, or she is deliberately trying to push this to brainwash others. I think she's either the victim of her own doctrine, we'll call it, and she really does believe that white people are out to get us. They're everywhere. Racists are everywhere. She either believes that, or she knows it's bunk, but she's trying to manipulate the youth. I think that's probably what's happening. So, I hope that she comes to her senses at some point soon, and I hope that Disney is willing to be consistent with their tolerance and their diversity, because this doesn't sound like it's actually for any kind of true diversity or equal opportunity. It sounds like they want equity. They want all the white people gone, and they want only people with either colored skin or black skin. In her case, I think she might be not as honest as she's letting on. I think she's probably a little more intense than just not liking white people. There must be when you are so open about that kind of hate in your heart, there's probably other things there. And I hope that, this is just based on like a couple of really crappy people that she's run into in the past. I hope this isn't based on anything really dark, experiences that she might have had in her life. I wish her the best. I wish that she has a good life. But this is not good. She's just pushing racism and claiming that it's not racism. Oh, and the High Republic, for which she is also hired. I've made a video about this before, but look at diversity's on here twice. It's like, okay, that's fine. But what does that mean? Does diversity just mean like we don't want white people here? Or does it mean that you want do you want equity? Like, do you want an equal number of like, we want two brown Mexican characters in Star Wars, even though Mexico is not a place in Star Wars. We want you know, two African people, even though there's no African there's no Africa in Star Wars. It's like they're from Coruscant. There's like Coruscant is basically America, or you could say like the Silicon Valley. There's a billion people, not a billion. There's like, I'm not using literal terms. I'm being hyperbolic. There's a billion people, hyperbolically speaking, on Coruscant, and they're all super mixed. It's a giant melting pot of all these different planetary creatures and species, alien races, things like that. It's like you got everybody. It's a giant melting pot, and I'm totally down with that. But it's funny to me because this right here, putting this on the board twice, this board was clearly built to try to virtue signal. It's like, we want this thing to be about feelings. And it's like, fiction it does involve feelings. You are supposed to play off of feelings. You're supposed to have a connection with the characters and the stories that is going on. But it's like humor. It's like, okay, duh. Like you want it to be completely without, like, devoid of humor. It's just fun. I mean, you can put that on the board. I'm not going to try to nitpick. I already did, but I'm going to try to be less nitpicky about this. I like the authentically lived in, not pro-war, interesting. I guess that makes sense if you're talking about, like, this is the Jedi in their heyday before politics got involved. It's like, okay, not pro-war. Cool. Down with that. Droids, dope. Scope, I mean, like, you want it to have like depth. You want the vision of what is going on to stretch through the timeline of the Skywalker saga, maybe. Like, I don't know if you want just foreshadowing, perhaps. Mythic, okay, that's cool. I can get down. It sounds vague, but okay. Space and lightsaber battles, yes, please, lots of that. No single main character. That's also fun. I really like that idea. No single main character. I am 100% on board with that. That gives me some hope. The Force, good. You'd have to have that, or that it might not be that interesting. Actually, that's not true. I could totally have Star Wars with no Force for a time, but there has to be some Force. Like, that's one of the central themes of Star Wars in general. Complicated monsters. I don't know why they have to be complicated, but you can just have monsters like the Rancor. It's not that complicated, but you can have monsters. I love that. Love monsters. Now, when you get to Star Wars wishes, it's really interesting because you have High Republic, cool, that's the time period. Relic Hunters, sounds fun. University, they want to have like a university theme. I don't like that because they're pushing critical race theory in our current universities, and the closer that it feels to our current world, the less interested I am in Star Wars for the most part. I don't want to see like the same problems that we're seeing on the news in Star Wars, because to me, those are the things that I want to avoid. Those are the things that don't make me happy. Those are the things that don't make me feel like I'm in a world that is outside of our own, where I can escape and I can have these side quests, side adventures in my brain. I can kind of relate to a character who is totally living a different life than mine. I can connect to Ezra Bridger. I can connect to Bo-Katan. I can connect to Gina Carano's character, Cara Dune. I can connect to pretty much anybody. A lot of these characters, and I've got so little to do with these characters. I've got almost nothing in common. I don't need to be that. So when they get down to this part where they say representation / diversity, it's like, what are you representing? Like, people in our world right now. Like, I know that one of the characters that this is, and I'm not making fun of this, like the real part of this. I'm making fun of the fact that they feel like they need to represent this. Is like they have a character who gets his arm cut off in the Star Wars world, and he keeps it off. He's like, you know what? I know we have the technology to get my arm back. I know we have mastered prosthetics for fake limbs, and I know that people can get shot in the gut now, and you can literally just get your guts replaced with mechanics. I know that, and I know that you can have, you know, like Darth Vader literally lose both of his legs and both of his arms and get roasted alive and still come back and be the baddest dude in the galaxy because of these super futuristic, amazing prosthetics. But no, I'm just going to leave it off because of representation. It's like, that is literally it. That's the handicap. Like, that's, you want to, anyone want to get the prosthetic. It's like, isn't that the dream? Isn't that like, you know, like if you have a disability, being able to overcome that disability would be the dream you would fantasize about. Like, those are the things that you would be like, oh, I dream of having, like a war veteran be like, I wish I had my legs back. Darth Vader is literally that. Like he got his legs chopped off by Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you get the legs back. Like, so it's really funny to me when they start to think like, oh, we need representation. It's like, okay, but for who? And how is that relevant for Star Wars? And how does that make sense in Star Wars? It's like representation. It's like, okay, for what? Females? Like the last, what is it, 4 or 5 movies we've had? Well, I guess Solo was a male lead, but it was co-led, right? It was co-led with Emilia Clarke as Kira, and you know, we've had Rey in her own trilogy. Unfortunately, the trilogy sucked. We also had I almost said Galen, but that's her dad, Jyn Erso in Rogue One, which I loved. I love Rogue One so much. That was a great movie, and that is a positive credit towards Kathleen Kennedy, even though there was difficulties with like getting directors on board and to stay on board in the writing. That doesn't speak well, but the result was beautiful, and I love Rogue One, so thank you, Kathleen Kennedy. That is a prop for you. That's praise for you. And then it says, what does it say right there? Is that of Arthurian? Oh, Arthurian legends. So it's going to be like King Arthur, I think. King Arthur is, if I know that, I don't think I understand that reference. If that's just about King Arthur as like Arthurian legends, I can get down with that. If it's supposed to be like knights and knights of the round table and like, and sword in the stone type stuff, I can totally get down with some of that action told as if it were Star Wars. I can do that. That sounds great to me. Maybe not the most original, but it's okay. Like you can recycle the hero's journey. That's fine. Rival houses. That sounds fun. Sith Empire. Awesome. I want to see more of that. Chaos Agents. I don't know what that is, but I'm intrigued and I'm curious. Splinter Group Force users. Yes, we kind of already have those a little bit. Like we have like it. And so some of this, I don't want to get too deep into this, but just this having diversity on here twice with one of them saying representation, it makes me a little bit worried that they're going to try to make Star Wars a representation of what we're dealing with in our real world today. I don't want that. That's not something that I want for fantasy fiction stories. For fantasy fiction stories, I want things that are not reminding me of the constant things that go on in our day-to-day lives or on the news. If I wanted to watch the news, I'd watch the news. If I wanted to get critical race theory, I'd watch anything else. But I want Star Wars to be Star Wars. That's what a lot of people want as well. Oh, and by the way, this one has since apparently flipped with positive. I know for a fact that I disliked this. And apparently it's not there. I think they removed a bunch of dislikes to give this a better ratio, because I did dislike this. I'm disliking it again. Anyway, but yeah, so those are some of the things that are worrisome, but also like, it's like, okay, cool. Like if you can prioritize it right and pull it off, that's good. I can get down, but they've got this crap. Where is it? Nope. There it is. Geode. Geode is the new character. It's a rock. It's literally a rock. It's there's a YouTuber you guys probably all already know. It's Overlord DVD. You can look him up. He's hilarious as all heck. Super funny YouTube channel. He does a lot of speculation and like scoops, but with anonymous sources. And you have to take things with a grain of salt, but he's very honest about that. He'll say, I cannot corroborate this. It's a source. I'm protecting the source. It's unverified. So, just take it as a rumor, but let me tell you about it. And then he gets in to tell you about it. It's really funny, but he has an amazing video you should check out about Geode, the rock. Oh, dude, it's just so disappointing. You think there's like, they might as well have made this a gravestone that said "RIP Star Wars." Like this is what it looks like now, is that we've gotten to a point where Star Wars writing is so bad that the bar is set so low that if the films can suck that much, then all of these things are just good to go. Let's just make the Star Wars ship for this next saga is the vessel is going to be called Vessel. The rock is going to be called Geode. And it's literally going to be a rock. It's not even like it's not even going to be like, for instance, the guy from Thor Ragnarok, right? What's his name? Korg. It's not even like it's Korg, where it's a rock being that is like capable of movement, and like it's a rock. It's basically a tombstone. Like it's Stonehenge. He's just gonna sit there. And I mean, it's just disappointing. It's like, this is what we got. We got pet rocks now in Star Wars. I am not thrilled. The more that I learn about this, when we had just that trailer, I was like, okay, let's just give it a second. Let's see what's coming out. And things that are coming out, not looking super terrific. In fact, they hired a racist to be their person, right? It's like, this is your spokesperson, and it's a person that hates white people. I don't get it. Like, I just don't understand what's going on here. But anyway, so the next thing on the list, oh yeah, by the way, they wanted to cancel Henry Cavill just because he used to date, not currently dates, used to date. They were ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend now. Ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend. Gina Carano was Henry Cavill's ex-girlfriend, no longer together. And they wanted to cancel Henry for this. For her sake. That's how psycho the people in the mob are, right? The mob being Twitter, because they are the mob. And literally, it's just people going off about, look, there's a stupid account, 6 posts, it's brand new. These people are making these accounts in order to make a big stink about Gina, right? It's like, this account is called Cancel Henry Cavill for what? Look at these lies. It says, boycott Henry Cavill. He is racist, homophobic, sexist, sexual predator. Are you kidding? And ex Gina Carano's BF. This is what it's all about here at the bottom. Gina Carano's ex BF. That's the whole reason for this. It's just nuts. And I completely agree with that Star Wars girl. She is spot on. She's correct. These people are weird and they are dumb, in my opinion. And it's silly. Like, people are willfully ignorant. And then people go like this. They go, can't wait for the day that Henry Cavill decides to star alongside Gina Carano in the upcoming Ben Shapiro movie, The World is a Joke. And then it's the hashtags for the cancel, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes, Henry Cavill dated Gina Carano. You know what that means? Hashtag cancel. Look. Did anyone ask Henry what he has to say about all this? No. Did anyone stop and be like, I wonder if Henry also doesn't like Gina? After all, they did date at one point and break up. Some people don't harbor positive feelings for their ex-girlfriends. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But everyone's just like, cancel Henry Cavill because of Gina. It's like, look how far these guys are willing to go to ruin people's lives and reputations, that they're willing to ruin the lives of people that are not even connected to the situation at hand, just because they either stood with, think like, sound like, look like, or at one point knew the person in question. People are nuts. It's bonkers. And these people, God forbid they ever get into law and become our lawyers, our judges, our lawmakers, congressmen. I mean, this is just not good. It's not good. This is called guilty until proven innocent, where they're willing to drag innocent people down to HE double hockey sticks just to prove their dumb racist theories. It's nuts. I did not mean to click on that. Okay, anyway. And if you guys are confused about what Gina had to say, she absolutely was not mocking trans. Boop, bop, beep. Absolutely not mocking trans. It was mocking the Twitter mob that was trying to coerce her into using gender pronouns in her Twitter bio against her will. She didn't want to do that. And she said, look, she even said, I support you guys saying whatever. Anyone can live any life they want to. You guys do that. I support you supporting that. But I'm going to use my Twitter bio the way that I want to. And you can't make me do that. And they would not, they lost their minds. They all had brain aneurysms, and they were frothing at the mouth because they couldn't hold together the thought that someone wouldn't do exactly what they wanted. These people are gigantic babies that have grown out of diapers, not because they were potty trained, but because they don't make them in adult sizes, at least not, actually they do now. They have Depends. So these people, probably in Depends, are pooping themselves in their chairs, freaking out because someone won't say what they want them to say. And it's like, look, you don't get to control people. These people were not spanked as kids. They don't have any respect for any other human beings. They don't have respect for your opinion. They don't have respect for free speech. They don't have anything like that. Nothing of the sort. They want totalitarian. You're going to do, say, and think what we want you to do, say, and think when we say to do, say, or think. Or we want you not just fired, but we want you destroyed. They want you dead. And that's why I think these people are paid, is because in real life, people don't act like this. This is not real. These are, in real life, the behavior that we see from these people on Twitter, that's some scary stuff. That's like the kind of stuff that you would be like, oh my gosh, like you see someone acting that way, misbehaving, an adult acting that way, you think they're on drugs. You think these people were on drugs. In fact, I would be willing to bet that a lot of these people that are out here just raving on Twitter probably are on some sort of drug. And they're losing it, out of control, just Roseanne barring it out on Twitter and just like going for it. And I'm not trying to make a statement about Roseanne, but just the fact that she was on Ambien when she was tweeting. But I think it was Ambien and alcohol, and then she started tweeting. That's what she said on Joe Rogan's podcast. That's not my words, those are hers. So anyways, oh yeah, if you guys are still trying to figure out whether or not she is or is not for trans people, or at least supportive, she says this, and you don't have to support it, but the fact is people are lying about her, so I wanted to set the record straight for her. She says, I'm not against trans lives at all. They need to find less abusive representation. So I'll read the whole thing. She says, they're mad because I won't put pronouns in my bio to show support for trans lives. After months of harassing me in every way, I decided to put 3 very controversial words in my bio, beep, bop, boop. She says, I'm not against trans lives at all. They just need to find better, basically less abusive representation. Because these people that are trying to make people get on board are just nuts. And look at this person, I don't know, Coraline, whatever. They say, just say you're transphobic and move on. And she goes, you're transphobic and move on. I don't know why, to me, that sounded almost like David Spade was answering that. That's kind of funny. But yeah, and this is so funny. They're like, this is a meme, right? So I'll play this out for you. She goes, meme, I prefer mangoes to oranges. And then some random person on Twitter is going to be like, so basically what you're saying is you hate oranges. You also failed to mention pineapples, bananas, and grapefruits. Educate yourself. I'm literally shaking right now. This is like how they melt down online. And it's literally how it works, is like if you say I think this, they come at you like, well, you didn't say this, or you don't support this, or you're this, or you're an ist, or you're a phobe, or you're whatever, and then they just lose their minds. And I think they're paid. I bet you they're paid. I bet you a bunch of them aren't even people. I bet you they're automatic accounts with preloaded things to say, and people probably just get paid to load those accounts with things to say for certain topics, and then just unload them on a certain hashtag. So if you have a certain hashtag, it just goes, okay, find that hashtag and just dump these comments in there. Like a giant train of comments just crashing into your Twitter feed. And look at this is what something else that Gina had posted, which is, this is just a historical picture. Like all these people that are just going with what the mob wants them to do. And in this case, it was Germany, World War II. This wasn't even the post in question, but this is exactly what was happening. Is Gina said, I'm going to think for myself. You guys have fun. And they said, no, you won't have fun. And you are going to think like us, or we're going to ruin you. And that's why she said, beep, bop, boop. No, I'm going to say what I want. And I'm super happy about that. Oh, my new favorite Funko Pop. It was already one of my favorite Funko Pops, but now it's my favorite. So Oh, and then next up we have, oh yeah, and this is where we get back, circling all the way back around to the shareholders, right? So Kathleen Kennedy probably is in hot water. I would suggest that what was said to the shareholders is not genuine, but it was there to just maintain confidence. Again, this website, the Mary Sue, is very bent left. It bends pretty far to the left, and this person is absolutely against Gina Carano. And they share a bunch of stuff to try to like make it seem like anyone who thinks that Kathleen Kennedy or Dave Filoni, like that Kathleen Kennedy's going to get fired, is that they're idiots because Bob Chapek, he said to his shareholders that she's going to be around for years to come. She's going to be directing. She's an amazing talent, like that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? She may be a creative talent, but she is not the right one for Lucasfilm. I think if you think that she can make billions of dollars running Lucasfilm, you should see what Jon Favreau is going to do with it. Frankly, I think that Chapek's response to the shareholders was just saving face, because that's what a shareholders meeting is supposed to do, is build confidence. And there was only one way to keep the confidence for that. Frankly, it wasn't going to be for everybody either, but there was only one way out of that cleanly, and it was to deny any doubt in Kathleen Kennedy and just say, we're really excited, we're moving forward, there's going to be good things coming through Kathleen Kennedy in the future. Okay, great. Next question, hard dodge. We're going to see what happens in the next, I would guess months. It's probably not going to be weeks, it's probably going to be months. There's probably a lot to hash out, lot going on, but there's their last shareholders meeting, or their last the Disney like woohoo, here's what's coming up, when they announced like they had more than 10 Disney Plus TV shows coming out. They were based on the fact that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni were heading up these things, and that things were in order at Lucasfilm. They were going in a good direction, and Gina Carano was going to be the star of Rangers of the New Republic, and there was supposedly another show that was going to branch off after that with Gina Carano, and both those things are done. There's rumor and word on the internet that that Jon Favreau is not just going to rewrite the story for Rangers of the New Republic, but that he might also be just scrapping it and starting a whole different project under a different title as well. They were clearly setting up the Rangers of the New Republic at the end of The Mandalorian season 2, and also in like midway through season 2 with the Gina Carano arc. You know, she said she was talking to that guy she called Blue, which was the Asian guy that was the Ranger that was the partner of Dave Filoni's character. Lots of things were going to happen, and I'd be willing to bet that a lot of the projects that were going to happen back then, including maybe even Rosario Dawson's stuff, even though she's already probably shot a good amount of the Ahsoka series, which I bet you is still going to happen, there's going to be a lot of drama surrounding that, because these Twitter loons are just freaking out at everyone for every reason. And Disney apparently cares about that. That's the frustrating thing, is like, why on earth are you paying attention to these guys? Of all people, like, these are the most unhappy people in the world, and you're gonna base your business strategy on these guys. It's unbelievable. So that's why I think they're probably paid by someone important to do, or like someone extremely powerful or wealthy to do that kind of thing. Otherwise, why would you care? Like, why would you care unless you knew something about that Twitter mob that was different? Because like, you could just keep trucking along. Like, people would respect the decision to be like, look, we have a way of thinking that we want to get to for our company. And, you know, unfortunately, Gina Carano doesn't line up with that. We do tend to lean towards the left. I don't think that's a big secret, but, you know, it was something that we weren't going to be able to make work with in our working environment. Like, we have a certain working environment. We do, if they were to come out and just say we do discriminate against conservatives, you know, we love our customers, but we want our working environment, which is already so tense, to be less tense. Like, that doesn't sound good, and it wouldn't go over well with everybody, but at least it'd be honest. you know, their actions have spoken louder than their words. And unfortunately, everybody in the world, except for apparently the Mary Sue, saw through the lies of the Jedi, you know, basically what Chapek had said. He was saying, we don't discriminate. Well, you do discriminate, unfortunately. You don't just stand for universal values. You stand for critical race theory. And you're pushing that just like the Coca-Cola company was doing. This is something that you want to do. Gina kind of put a damper in that plan. And so you had to have her, banished, basically. Because it's no longer just fired anymore. Now it's like you have to ruin their life and make it so they can't work again. She got fired not just from Lucasfilm or Disney, but from her company, her talent agency as well. Anyway, so that's what they call values, is hiring a staunch anti-white racist for your High Republic TV show. Ridiculous. So silly. Anyway, but you can see this. I linked this in the bio, I believe. So you should have that there. If it's not, I'll drop it in the comments, but I'm pretty sure I put it in the bio. You can check out the entire thing, and I encourage every single one of you, listen to the whole thing. It gets really boring, but at least that way you can get the context of, okay, did Bob Chapek ever give a single discouraging answer in the entire thing? No. He's the king of spin. He's a salesman. He's going to spin everything into a positive light no matter what. And so when confronted with two very large problems, the blacklisting of conservatives and Kathleen Kennedy potentially being fired, he had to say, nope, please keep your confidence nice and high, and your dollars nestled safely in my pocket. It was all about just making sure the shareholders were totally comfortable, not worried at all, and still funding their company. So that's what this was all about. Now, if you guys want, I've actually gotten a few of these things here. So you can see this is the original post from Gina Carano. And by the way, when I say original post, I mean the one that made a big stink online, but it's not hers. It was posted by, I think it's called Warrior Priest Jim Podcast. And she shared that, and that's what they were trying to say was so bad. But they also made a false claim saying that she was comparing being a Republican to being a Jew during the Holocaust. And that's not true at all. That's factually untrue. She said this, because history is edited. Oh, she says this first at the top. Jews were beaten in the streets by Nazi soldiers, but not by Nazi soldiers, by their neighbors, even by children. So not by Nazis, but by their neighbors. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? She didn't say Republican. She didn't say right wing. She didn't say left. She didn't say Democrat. She didn't say any of that. She didn't say red versus blue. She just said, how is that different from hating someone for their political views? Not a side. She meant all sides. She was talking about both sides hating one another for their differences. It wasn't about just people hating one side. And that's the lie that people were reading in the headlines. She compared being a Republican to being in the Holocaust. It's not even a close comparison. Well, yeah, it's not a close comparison. But she didn't say that. That's not her argument. That's the media lying and telling you that that was the argument. That wasn't what she said anyway. But what she was saying was, dude, we shouldn't hate each other for our views. But guess what Twitter did? They decided to hate her for her views. Guess what Disney did? They decided to hate her for her views. That's exactly what happened. That's what she was saying. That's exactly what she was saying. She was right. She was freaking right. Nothing that was said here. By the way, this wasn't her. She was sharing this. So people who say that she said this, even if they get the quote right, she didn't say it. She reposted it. And it's true. And Disney and the Twitter mob and all these people that don't think for themselves, they read the headline and not the article. They read the quote about her, but not her actual quote from herself. Those people are proving her right when they just cast endless hate on her for this. Now, Kathleen Kennedy, let's bring this back full circle and let's shine the spotlight on me, right? I want Kathleen Kennedy fired. I don't want her canceled. I don't want her removed from Hollywood where she can't work again. I don't want her to not be able to gain employment. And I've said this before, I don't even need her removed from Lucasfilm entirely, but she should be fired from her position as executive creative officer, producer. She has ultimate authority in Lucasfilm, and I think she should not. From that position, she should be fired. If she can be reallocated into a position where she's just a producer like she was for E.T., Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, then we could have ourselves a good collaboration in Star Wars where she can continue to work, but she should definitely be fired from her current position. Her position right now is not good. She should not be there. She's very bad at telling Star Wars stories. She's very bad at getting all the right people on the same track with the same direction, the same goals, understanding all the requirements of the job that they're being hired for. She's had so many different people leave projects for creative differences when really all that is they were not given the expectation initially. It was dropped on them like a bomb halfway through, 80% of the way through shooting. And then they were like, okay, well, that's not what we agreed to, but I guess we have to part ways now. Or she would let them go, right? It's like we don't know what that is because the media spin is always creative differences. But whatever drove them apart happened a lot because Kathleen Kennedy could not get people on the same page with her vision for Star Wars at the start of hiring. It's a revolving door of different directors and writers that came onto projects and then left. For The Force Awakens, for The Last Jedi, for for even Rogue One, for Solo. It's just a nightmare. There's so many things that were just constantly going wrong in that direction. It's still happening today. And I think that I don't want anybody canceled for their political views or for their personal views. I don't want that. I don't even want Kathleen Kennedy fired for her political views. I didn't even say that Christine Ariel, who is a racist against white people, I didn't even say that she should be fired. I'm saying it's hypocritical of Disney to be like, a post here that is clearly not racist, it's actually sympathetic to Jews. It's actually saying that it's a tragedy. She has a Warrior Priest Jim podcast has a sad face when they talk about the Jews being beaten in the streets. It is clearly not celebrating this. It is actually saying this is a tragedy. We should avoid it at all costs and don't go there again. They're saying that if we continue hating each other for our political differences and our personal views and stuff like that, it says political, then this is what led to that. So don't do that. So if anything, it's not anti-Semitic, it's Semitic. It's historically accurate. It's not false. It's not an endorsement of anything. And it's also not saying that one side is better than the other, or I'm this and you're that, or this right versus left. None of that. It's none of that. It's saying we should all respect one another's opinions and views and get back to loving our neighbor. That's the whole point of this post. And but people are willfully ignorant. They choose to see what they want to see instead of what is actually there in front of them. And that's just what Disney's doing right now. So I'm just like, you know what? Kathleen Kennedy should be fired because she's bad at her job. Not because of her political views, not because she can't stop shoving politics into Star Wars, not because of any kind of personal views about, like, I don't know, anything that she may feel or think on her own. It's because she's bad at her job. That's why she should be fired. And that's why I say, pick yourself up one of these. So, Gina Carano, again, just to remind you guys, didn't say what you think she said. She's talking about harassment. The whole thing is about online bullying, not trans. And then she talks about how Pedro and her were friends. And by the way, Pedro is like way different than her on worldview as well. As far as we can tell, Gina Carano leans somewhere in the middle to the right. We don't even know that she's a Republican. In fact, I think she said she has, or Ben Shapiro says she has some conservative views, or that she leans conservative on his podcast. But I don't think we've heard that from her mouth, except for we do kind of know at this point who she alludes to, who she voted for. But that doesn't mean that she is that person either. Like, there's a lot of people that I know who were moderately conservative who voted the other way. And it's just because there may be a specific value that they cherish above others, that they hold higher in importance, personal, the way that you structure things, your own priorities. If there's one thing that you prioritize that the person that you think you might line up with doesn't, you might go with somebody else. That's one of the things that's interesting about this whole situation, is that people just assume stuff about people now. And that's not good. That's dumb. So this is the Beep Bop Boop explanation. It says Beep Bop Boop has 0 to do with mocking trans people and 100% to do with exposing the bullying mentality of the mob that has taken place over the voices of many genuine causes. I want people to know you can take hate with a smile. So boop you for misunderstanding. All love, no hate. And then beeps proactively. And then this is like more explanation. They're mad because I won't put pronouns in my bio to show support. We already showed you this one on the left, but the one on the right says, I don't think trans people would like all of you trying to force a woman to put something in her bio through harassment and name calling every day for months, such as racist, transphobe, B-word, weirdo. I hope you die is what they're quoting here. And quote again, I hope you lose your career. You quote, you're fat, you're ugly, that kind of stuff. So this is exactly what was going on with her from her words. And we can see this because it's all public forum on Twitter. And I've been following this for a long time. You guys may or may not be new to this, but I was calling this stuff out when this was the whole thing, right? Before they tried to claim anything about the recent post and she got fired, this was what was going on back in September. And I was telling everybody, I was like, look at what's going on right now. This is madness. And but people don't want to look for themselves. That's the thing. It's like you rather just hear something and take it and just accept it and move on, because you don't want to give things too much of your thought or time. And that laziness and that ignorance is not the same thing as innocence. When people are over here like literally just bullying people, torturing people. I mean, you know, and I think anyone who claims to be anti-bullying but also supports cancel culture is a hypocrite. Because that's exactly what it is. It's not based on justice. It's not based on the law. It's based on, you do what I say, you do it now. And it's just, give me your lunch money. That's the whole thing, is just give me your lunch money. Or do my homework, right? It's like, that's what it is. It's like, you're just making demands. And if people don't do it, you beat them up or you try to get them canceled, like that kind of stuff. And online, of course, it's not beating up. It's just, you get them canceled, you berate them, you do disinformation campaigns to make them look bad. You ruin their reputation, that sort of stuff. It's just not good. And I already showed you this one. Okay, so that's pretty much what I have. So yeah. And that's pretty much going to wrap up this portion of the video. I'm going to cut back to the live cam in just 1 second. But before I do, if you guys like what you see on my shirt and on my cup right here, you guys can absolutely get these for yourselves, the Kathleen Kennedy, hashtag this is the way, or you can get the Gina Carano shirts over here at my TeePublic store. So if you click on the link in the description of my video, you can click over and go to my link tree. It'll take you right here. And from here, you can see all these designs that I've done for Gina Carano. I stand with Gina Carano, this is the way, and Fire Kathleen Kennedy, this is the way, in multiple color sets. So you can get these. I've also got these Ahsoka Tano designs that I've done myself. The Mythrol, this one was a good one too. Thrawn, Grogu. I've got a ton of stuff here of all different sorts. Mando. A lot of my designs have been removed, unfortunately. I know that if you use a certain hashtag on TeePublic, they default and have your thing removed because they're like, oh no, if you use a certain hashtag, then we might get like the wrongful attention from a company thinking that we're breaking, you know, some violation of intellectual property. But if you make the art yourself, then no. And most of my designs are text anyway, so you know, this right here, total fair game. So these ones are still online, so go get these while you still can. Fire Kathleen Kennedy, this is the way. I stand with Gina Carano in Boba Fett colors, R2 colors, or Rebel colors, or inverse Rebel colors. So you can get these. A couple of examples so you can see here. You can get male, female. You can get classic t-shirts. You can get tank tops. You can get all kinds of fun stuff. Stickers, pins, mugs, masks even. You can get masks, totes, All these things are actually going, oh my gosh, 11 minutes is when it's on sale. If you guys buy now, you'll be able to get those on sale. And the sales do occur throughout the month from time to time. Usually closer like to the weekends is usually when that happens. But this one has been running for 3 days, and now it's about to end. So you got 10 minutes. Better hurry up. So get you guys some Kathleen Kennedy or some I Stand with Gina Carano stuff. This is pretty fun. I'm gonna buy this one, but I just bought this one for myself, which is pretty sweet. And then this one, I'm gonna probably get this one. I like that. So thank you guys. I'm gonna switch over to the live cam, and I'm going to take. Wow, that's a lot of comments. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pull the pop-out chat over here so that I can read it. All right. I'm going to take some questions. I'm going to try to get through these fast. There's a lot of these. I did do a long live stream. I've been going for almost 2 hours. So here we go. Daniel's Hot Topic says, OMG, hi Daniel, I missed you and I was wondering when you would show up. It's been a while. I tried to explain this in the video because I was trying to cover a ton of articles and comments and stuff. Content rather. I took about a month to gather myself because, as you can tell, I'm still worked up. I'm still upset about the things that are going on. I'm trying to keep my emotions at bay so that I can talk clearly about what the facts are and give my speculations and give my theories and give my thoughts, but try to keep a distinction. Because if I feel a certain way about something, like if I read a set of facts and then I get feelings about something and I start to speculate, it's easy to just start ranting and forget to make separation between the facts and the speculation, my own opinions, my own theories. Because you can have facts and then you can have your opinions about the facts. You've got to be able to separate those, right? And I hope that I was able to do a good job with that, but I'm still upset about this. So I'll try to make some concise videos, like 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, to be able to convey my thoughts clearly. I've really been struggling with this, I'm not gonna lie, for the last month, and so that's why I haven't really done this this video until now. So Daniel's Hot Topic says the finale of WandaVision was disappointing. It did not have Doctor Strange. We were promised Magneto showing up, Al Pacino as Mephisto, and we got none of it. I know that there was some rumor sites that were talking about Al Pacino's Mephisto. There was some rumors going around that Magneto was going to make an appearance. I did not think that was going to happen, but I was hoping that we may get some peek into the multiverse, and they kind of eluded away. They went away from that. I think there's a reason why we didn't get Mephisto, and I think it's because China has laws against having a demon on film or television in any capacity. You can't depict one at all, and Mephisto technically is one. He is one. So I don't think they were going to do that, and I'm actually starting to think now, because of the laws in China, that they will not do that at any point in the MCU, which is a bummer in a way. I'm more upset really that, like, for instance, that we bow to China at all for anything. Like their government is morally bankrupt. Ours is no walk in the park either, but we at least have freedom allotted to us through our Constitution, and we're able to have our rights protected. They don't have rights over there. That's a joke. They're only allowed to do what they're told they're allowed to do when they're told to do it, and that's that. Otherwise, you get ranked lower in the class system, and then eventually you're not able to work or travel, take public transportation, get loans, or any of that stuff. Like you just get nerfed entirely and that's just a silly way to say that your life is ruined. So then Daniel's Hot Topic says, I've been pretty political in this one. I've been like not holding back just because of the nature of the Gina Carano situation. I've felt a little bit more bold about this one. Daniel's Hot Topic says, now we got to wait 9 months for the continuation of Wanda's story in Spider-Man No Way Home. I know. I'm really excited for Spider-Man No Way Home. I can't wait to see what they do with that. I'm really excited to see Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. It's really funny that Multiverse of Madness, the acronym for that is MOM. Doctor Strange and the mom. That's Wanda. Wanda is the mom, and the whole point is that she's trying to bring her kids back to life. We know that from the end of WandaVision. And so I think that's a really interesting acronym. I'm excited. I want to see more going on there. But also I'm not disappointed with the finale of WandaVision per se because of like not getting Magneto. That wasn't promised. It was suggested that it could happen. But it was a lot of rumor. It was a ton of speculation, and it was wishful thinking on all of our part. I mean, I want to see it. I want to see mutants. I want to see mutants immediately. I want them now. But if we wait for them, if we let them bring those out the proper way, then we're going to get them better. I believe, I hope. And, I'm starting to think we may not get Mephisto, but we will get somebody. And hopefully that somebody is fun and interesting. Maybe it'll just be Wanda. Maybe it's going to be Wanda versus Doctor Strange. All right, hang on. Let me see if I can get through a few of these as fast as possible. All right. Also, Daniel's Hot Topic says, I feel there is a greater chance for Hugh Jackman to land in the MCU as a multiverse version of Wolverine. Hugh Jackman talked to Sebastian Stan about coming to the MCU, and Sebastian Stan says Hugh Jackman and him had a good talk, and Hugh wants to come into the MCU. Also, Hugh Jackman talked to Mark Ruffalo, and Hugh Jackman said that he would come back for a Wolverine versus Hulk movie. That, to me, is the dream come true. I would love to see a Wolverine Hulk movie. If it is Hugh Jackman, I would love that. If it's not Hugh Jackman, depending on who it is, I could also love that. It's about performance, but it's also about presentation. How do you present Wolverine in the MCU? How do you bring him to life in a universe that hasn't had him yet, technically? Also, Hugh Jackman said he wants to come in. Sorry, it's getting late. He wants to come into the event to do Avengers 5 and fight alongside the Avengers. And now that Wanda will break the multiverse and characters will fall into the MCU, Hugh Jackman can come among them. I agree, it's possible. I think anything's going to be possible after Spider-Man breaks the multiverse. I remember you actually mentioned you mentioned this to me in a comment of a different video, where Spider-Man is actually going to get banished to the Sonyverse. And I think that that's actually a very viable option. The theory that you shared with me goes that because of the Sony drama where Spider-Man was outside the MCU, they took him back. Basically, Sony said, we're not going to play with Marvel anymore. Then Marvel came crawling back and was like, no, please, let's strike a deal. They did strike a deal. Maybe the deal was that they would separate, but after a certain film. And that film being No Way Home, where he actually gets banished to the Sonyverse, where he will forever be punished by being in the same universe as Tom Hardy's Venom, awesome, and Michael Morbius, played by Jared Leto. We haven't seen the film yet, but I'm excited for that. And I think it could be good. I mean, if they do it right, if they play it well, it could be a really awesome thing. And you say here, if Deadpool will fall into the MCU when Wanda breaks the multiverse, then Hugh Jackman can also as well, with fingers crossed. Yes, I think that's very possible. If Deadpool can do it, Wolverine can do it. Technically, they are in the same universe. I mean, Deadpool was made much later. He was technically he got his start in the Wolverine film, in the X-Men Origins Wolverine. They're already in the same universe, so if Deadpool can be in the MCU, then guess what? So can Wolverine. It's a simple trail of logic, but will they, and will he actually return? Because it's one thing for Hugh Jackman to say these things. It's another for it to happen. They also have to make it work with their plans for Wolverine in the MCU. Do they want the same Wolverine? Do they want the same baggage of the Fox universe? Or will they tease that as an alternate universe in the multiverse of the MCU, and then the true X-Men Wolverine is going to be played by somebody else? Like, they could do that where they actually literally get to do both, but it's not, it's not really Hugh Jackman being the main guy. So then it says here, Daniel's Hot Topics. Also, I wrote in the comments section, talked about, oh yeah, we just talked about this one. Yeah. And then Daniel's Hot Topic says, universe, if they do this, it will fail. Daniel's Hot Topic says, Sony, if they start a new universe with Spider-Man, Sony cannot populate their Sony universe with the Avengers, Thor, Asgard, the Celestials, Eternals, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Blade, Punisher. Oh, I think you continue in the next line. Guardians of the Galaxy, Galactus, or the rest, Sony only owns the rights to Spider-Man and his enemies, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Venom, Carnage, Black Cat, and the rest. Sony universe is very small because of Sony owns limited rights, so their universe is very small. They have no alien races in their Sony verse except Null, god of the symbiotes, and he is still out there, and Venom and Carnage. You know, I actually am going to disagree with you here because they have something close to, I think it was 700 characters at their disposal to use according to the Sony rights. And even though they may or may not have more alien races than just the symbiotes, they don't need that. Spider-Man's never been reliant on aliens. Like, the only time he's been reliant on aliens, alien invasions, is if it's another, like if it's Thor, or if it's the Skrulls coming down, but then he teams up with the Fantastic Four for that. You may not be able to get those crossovers with other heroes of that kind, but you can do a lot with the Spider-Man universe that is existent upon his own characters, his own universe. For instance, like you have Morbius, you could do Rocket Racer, you could do I think who was the other, like you have Silk, you have Miles Morales, you've got the whole like Madam Web. That's who I was trying to remember. Madam Web. She connects a universe of Spider-Man and Spider-Man universes inside of his own story. So like you can have all of that. You can have Spider-Man 2099. You can have Ben Reilly. You know, you can have all these different like characters that are there, even if they're like doppelgangers or clones of Spider-Man. They've already done Into the Spider-Verse, but you can do a lot just from neighborhood stuff. Like, we still haven't gotten a live action Hammerhead. We still haven't gotten a live action well, we did get a live action Wilson Fisk, but not in the Spider-Man universe. Like, you could get Vincent D'Onofrio showing up in Spider-Man No Way Home, but then maybe he and the Daredevil saga and the Netflix guys, maybe the Netflix guys actually got like, or some of them got put in a deal to like show up also in the Sonyverse. Like, maybe they get to share in both pools of universe. I think it'd be super cool. Sorry guys, my eyes are dry as heck. It's kind of like a combination of allergy season and me being like awake at midnight. So here's the next line. Alfred Molina, Doc Ock, Willem Dafoe will be in Spider-Man No Way Home. Could address that they have No Way Home to their home realities. Disney said that Willem Dafoe will have a bigger role in the MCU. Willem Dafoe on the Sony side is Green Goblin, but on the MCU side, Norman Osborn is Iron Patriot, the leader of the Dark Avengers. I can't wait to see Willem Dafoe, the Iron Patriot suit. And Sony does not have rights to the Norman Osborn Iron Patriot character, only the Green Goblin version. Interesting. That is an interesting thought. I'm not sure if that is the case as a matter of fact, but it does stand to reason that because the MCU used the Iron Patriot suit for War Machine in what was it, Iron Man 2, then that does sound to me like the legitimate legal divisions is that they can use Iron Patriot, possibly even Norman Osborn, but Green Goblin as a character has to remain in the Sonyverse. I think that could be a very cool thing. I've been wanting to see the Dark Avengers. I've been wanting to see gonna keep yawning like this until the video's over. I've been wanting to see the Thunderbolts. That would be something really, really cool. But I don't know about Willem Dafoe being in the MCU ongoing. He may just be there for the Spider-Man film, kicking off the fact that they're going to bring him back in the Sonyverse. Daniel, here is some, and by the way, the theory that this is going to lead into kicking him into the Sonyverse permanently is still just a theory. It's not verified. It is a very likely theory. It is something that is, it makes a lot of sense given the history of what happened, but I don't know that it is actually something that is going to happen definitively because we don't know. They don't give away the spoilers before the film anymore. They don't do that anymore. All right, so then it says, Daniel, here's some theories Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin come to the MCU because Wanda, along with Alfred Molina, Doc Ock, then they stay in the MCU, or B, Doctor Strange sends Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin, and stay. It says and stay with. And sends Green Goblin back to his universe in a post-credit scene. We see Oscorp in the MCU, and we see Willem Dafoe MCU version, and he is Iron Patriot. Interesting. See both of them. And also back to WandaVision. I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon. Also back to the WandaVision. Have you noticed that Kat Dennings, Darcy Lewis, is missing her boyfriend that saved her life back from the dark trolls, or the dark elves in Thor: The Dark World? She must have dumped him, and then he saved your life, Darcy. You owe him your life, and you dump him. Wow, what a cold world we live in. Live in one moment people are together and the next they break up in the blink of an eye. It makes head spin. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I didn't even realize that she had dumped that guy, but we didn't really get a lot of like closure on Darcy after the events of WandaVision. It's like, okay, she got sucked into that thing and Vision had that moment with her, explained it all to her, but she was just totally chill and totally cool. Is it because she's comic relief that she was just fine and like unconcerned? Or, I mean, she was sent through that portal, or through. She didn't go back and forth like Monica Rambeau did, but she definitely had exposure to that. Is she maybe going to get some powers? Who knows? Daniel's Hot Topic says, also they said that Wanda will become more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. No, Doctor Strange will eventually surpass Scarlet Witch. I believe he has to. I believe he will as well, but not because, like, this is how I saw it, is that they said that she had raw power and that she was more powerful than Sorcerer Supreme. I think that means raw power or her potential, because her thing, whether they have said it or not, because they didn't say it, but they kind of explained how it works. And I'm going to stick to this. Her mutant powers allowed her to connect with the Mind Stone when it was killing everybody else. She had a genetic predisposition to the Mind Stone, which is why she survived the experiment. She didn't survive just because it called to her or it wanted her or she was just chosen. No. She had the mutant X gene inside of her that was dormant, and that's why she was able to have that unlocked and survive that connection with the Mind Stone. And then her brother was also able to have that as well. Her twin brother also survived. It wasn't just because of her chaos magic. It was because he had a mutant X gene as well, and that was unlocked. And so, yeah, I think she has a predisposition to being able to manipulate reality. She has chaos magic as well. And similar to how Agatha Harkness was drawn, like the darkness was drawn to her. She was practicing magic and then dark magic called to her and she was like just naturally gifted with it. In the same way, it's like Wanda's chaos magic is part of her mutant powers. And she learns magic from Agatha, and she understands that she has the ability to do that in addition to her mutant powers that will complement her mutant powers, but the both of them together make her a viable foe against Doctor Strange, one that could even stand up against him, since she has that connection to the Mind Stone, and her reality warping powers kind of make her like a living double weapon. It's like it's almost like the Reality Stone and the Mind Stone are one. Even though she never had that kind of contact to the Reality Stone, her powers function like a Reality Stone. So, yeah, so Speaking of Doctor Strange, Strange improves super fast, and they get more powerful by taking sips of power from the multiverse. Well, in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, he will go into the multiverse. What? So Mando's Ace says what? Mando's Ace says, that's the most far-fetched thing in the world. Like, that is so not true. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about since I'm reading this so much later, Mando's Ace, but I will hopefully get context from the other comments that you leave. So I'll try to answer those once I have that context. Daniel's Hot Topic says he will go to the multiverse, so he will not be taking sips, but absorbing giant gulps of power. So by the end of the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange will emerge the most powerful Avenger. He will evolve. Interesting. I do actually hope that we get to see some sort of character transformation for Doctor Strange. That'd be awesome. And then he says, Daniel, have you read Secret Wars 2015? I hope they do not bring it into the MCU. No, I have not. I have not read Secret Wars. I have heard some of the plot details of it, but for those who have not heard, I'm not going to try to share those, and especially because I have not read the book itself, or the books, I mean. But yeah. So then Mando's Ace says, child, I cannot. And then, so I'm still not sure if you're talking about what I was saying about what like Ariel was saying, or about critical race theory, possibly, but I think we'll see what we can get context-wise from you down below. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that you enjoy the content, that we can have a discussion back and forth that's civil, and we can talk. If you have any disagreements, you bring them up. Ask questions in the comments, full sentences, please. Sometimes if I don't get a chance to answer back quickly, or I don't get to look at my comments in the pop-out chat at the end, I won't know what you're talking about if it's just questions like what, or if it's just short snippets like that's the most far-fetched thing in the world. I might not remember by the end of a 2-hour video what you were referring to. So please try to make your questions have a little bit more detail in there, or your statements. So he says, child, I cannot, with a laughing, smiling face and a hand up. I still don't know what that's about, but I appreciate your comments. So Daniel's Hot Topic says, I do not want to see the Beyonder erase the multiverse or have Doctor Doom kill them and take their power, create a new version of Battle World from the remnants of the multiverse. Epic story, but not for the MCU. Interesting. I love Doctor Doom. I love Doctor Doom so much, and I've been waiting a very long time to see him done right. I do think that him being a villain or a rival to Doctor Strange would be an excellent story to tell in the MCU, personally. But I am very... I think that won't be for a while. I think that's probably... If they ever do that, it's going to be probably at least 10, 15 years out. It's going to be a while. Maybe more than that, actually. We've been about 20 years into the MCU, and we finally gotten to the point where we got like Thanos. And I think that... I'm sorry, 10... It's been 10 years, sorry. 10 years, and we've gotten this far. I think it'll be another 10 years to set up mutants and Fantastic Four. Set up, not finish. Set up. And then after that, another 10 years to get to the point where we're like, things are getting bonkers with those characters. So that's what I'm thinking, is it's probably going to be like another 10, maybe 15 years. Okay, so then let's see what it says. Mando's Ace says... but it has to appeal to everyone and relatable. Minority groups to represent minority groups to appeal to everyone. You literally sound so stupid. Okay, so it sounds like Mando's Ace is disagreeing with me. I think I remember what you were talking about. When I showed the trailer for the High Republic, and I was talking about how they have diversity on there twice, and one of them said representation/diversity. What I'm saying here is that if your priority as a Star Wars character or a Star Wars story writer is not telling good Star Wars stories, then you are off track. If you're focused on diversity, you might tell a good story about diversity, but your priority is no longer telling a good Star Wars story. It is that is the goal. If your priority is feminism in Star Wars, your priority is no longer telling good Star Wars. It is feminism in Star Wars. And unfortunately, those aren't the same things. Like you can achieve similar goals. You can have diversity in Star Wars. There always has been, by the way. Billy D. Williams was in the original trilogy. There is Samuel L. Jackson in the original trilogy. Not just that, but Eth Koth. There's Bail Organa. There's so many characters that you can just rattle off and name. Like Tamora Morrison is not a white guy. Like if your whole thing is you just don't want white guys, and frankly, that's what this is all about, by the way, is that Disney's trying to virtue signal to make it seem like, oh, we're so cool, we're awesome, we're not this evil company, when in reality, they were the ones that had Donald Duck reading Mein Kampf back in the day in these cartoons. They're the ones that had all these racist cartoons, and with tons of racism littered throughout their cartoons and short clips and animations. They're just as guilty as everybody that they're trying to cancel. That's the bottom line. And when they go ahead and they hire a staunch anti-white racist to be the lead for their High Republic show, and then you see for the goals for the High Republic is like it's diversity and then representation and diversity. It's like your priorities are no longer about Star Wars. You're trying to push something to make yourself seem like a good person when in reality, that's not the case. And it's not relevant to telling the story about Star Wars. It's like, dude, like there's always been women in Star Wars. There's always been like Leia was a co-lead. Like, how are you going to say there was no like women in Star Wars? It's like, oh, but she wasn't the main person. Okay, fine. Like that's totally fine. We can have female led Star Wars. Rogue One was sick. Unfortunately, and The Force Awakens was not bad. The Force Awakens was pretty cool. It was a carbon copy of The New Hope. It was a rip, but it's like you have what you set out to have, and the movie still sucked because the point is, if you start from those goals of diversity is our most important thing, or it's something that we're going to prioritize, guess what you're not prioritizing? Good writing. Guess what you have to compensate for? Not telling a good Star Wars story. Like, unfortunately, if you start from a good Star Wars story and you just happen to have the main character be black, or you have them be Asian, or you have them be Mexican, or you have them be Cuban, or you have them be Italian, or whatever you want, like anything you want. You can have them be a blue alien. It doesn't matter. The whole point is that it's Star Wars and not our real world. Like that's the whole thing. So like, but the whole point is messaging. If they're putting that as the messaging of the film, you already lost. Like you're already not doing what you're trying to do, and you're just self-defeating because you just want to get pats on the back from these people on Twitter that don't care about you. They don't care about any of us. They don't care about me. They don't care about my Mexican dad. They don't care about my white mom. They don't care about any of the people around me that are my closest friends of all different ethnicities and whatever. Like you don't know me. You don't know them. They don't know you. And we're all pretending that we all have a say in how all these things go, and that for some reason we all demand to be represented in films. We don't. Because we're not intellectual children. We don't need to see someone that looks exactly like us in order to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm in that movie. That's me. No, I can say, you know what? I didn't grow up on a farm. I didn't grow up. I grew up in the 90s. Mark Hamill did not grow up in the 90s. The original trilogy was not made in the 90s. But guess what? I can relate to Luke Skywalker because he has the hero's journey. He has, he had parents who, I guess it was his aunt and uncle, but they raised him. They were telling him, dude, you got to do your chores. You can't just go running off and have adventures. Like, but come on, like my friends are out there. You can relate to these kinds of things. You don't need to have the same skin color, the same eyes, the same hair, the same, like everything. You don't have to wear the same shoes. It's not like that. That's not how dumb people are, that you have to have everything be exactly like you in order to feel like that's you. How many people in the world look up to Superman who don't look like Superman? Most of us. Like if I was just, if I needed to look like the person in the thing that I'm watching in order to connect with them, the only thing that I would watch is the short, stumpy guy from Workaholics, who was also in that singing film with Anna Kendrick. I would have to find that guy in everything and just follow his IMDb page and be like, okay, this is what I get to watch my whole life, because those are the only things I'm going to connect with, because I look like that guy. If I'm going to go ahead and just try to try to make that like representation. That's the dumbest thing to me, is like, you don't have to have representation of physical features. That's shallow. It's superficial. It's dumb. But you can have intellectual diversity. You can have diverse opinions. One of the fun things about Luke and Leia was that they were both adventurous, but they both were very at odds at a lot of times, but they were still family and they still loved each other and they still fought for each other side by side, arm in arm, because there was intellectual differences. There was things that they did not have in common. In fact, one was royal and one was a farmer. One was rich, one was poor. One was privileged and the other was not. And it had nothing to do with their skin color. It had everything to do with where they were economically, financially, socially, structurally. One was in government. One of them, the government had probably never even heard of, right? So it's just a stark contrast of like, you don't have to be from anywhere to be anybody. It's just, and you don't have to look like that person either. Like, it's just so, one of my favorite Jedi of all time is Mace Windu. I love Mace Windu. I don't look like Mace Windu. I didn't grow up in the same areas as Samuel L. Jackson. I don't wear the same clothes as him. We don't talk the same. I love Mace Windu. And I love Samuel L. Jackson. It's like, you don't have to look like that person to be inspired by that person or to appreciate that person. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And so and frankly, when people try to pander to, like, for instance, Native Americans, Mexicans, which is in my bloodline, I think it's just annoying. It's like, dude, can you stop treating me like I'm less than? Can you stop treating me like I'm less than American or less than just a citizen or a person? Like, I'm not what you want me to be. I'm not going to go out there and smoke a peace pipe and do a rain dance for you because you want to say I'm Native American. And I'm also not going to go and eat a bucket of mayonnaise because you think I'm just some white guy. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, that's not what I am. I'm not your idea of what I should be. And someone saying, oh, we need to have representation. How do you expect that you're going to represent me? How do you feel that I'm supposed to be there, or that my dad's supposed to be there, or that my mom's supposed to be there? How are you going to represent us? Because frankly, the way that Kathleen Kennedy likes to represent white people is the same way that what's her name? Ariel, whatever. Christine Ariel likes to represent white people as all racist and evil and bigoted. And unless they're female, because if they're female, then they're also oppressed, because this is critical race theory logic. It's so stupid. And frankly, like, this is, I can tell that this conversation may be new to you, but it's something that is very irking to people. Like, for instance, myself, I have white skin. I look white, but I'm from a mixed family. I don't have what you think I have. I'm not the person that you think I am. Like, if you think, like, my whole life I've been put into boxes by people who like putting people into boxes. A lot of my white friends just see me as Daniel. But a lot of my family on my Hispanic side, a lot of people that are friends that are Hispanic, people that I've grown up with my whole life, they call me white boy, right? And it's like, they just want to shove you into a box of identity. And it's like, look, I learned very early on from my dad, who is dark-skinned Hispanic, Native American blood from Mexico. He's from Zacatecas, Mexico, came over when he was 8, right? He got citizenship once he was over here, but he came over illegally. I sympathize with all these things, but he taught me very early on, son, you just got to have thick skin and a soft heart. You have to let things roll off your back. Don't take the insults. Don't just learn to laugh about it. Like, learn to have fun. If someone wants to, like, make fun of you and call you Ortega, or use a stereotypical Hispanic last name that isn't yours, or a first name, they want to call you Juan, Pablo, or something like that. Like, they can do that. That's fine. It's silly. It's dumb. It might be mean, but if you can learn to laugh about it, you can have thick skin and a soft heart. Just learn to love people. Don't take things personally, and just let it roll off. Like, this is one of the reasons why it's like, you can have a discussion about these things on about race and that sort of stuff. It's not racist to talk about race. It's racist to carry out actions against someone because of their skin color or because of the culture that they're from or that sort of thing. Those things are racist. It's the actions that happen. But again, it's really dumb when you want to make Star Wars or some fictional thing about aliens and creatures and infinite planets and galaxies and things like that. You want to turn that into just your critical race theory garbage. You know, it's just like being on a university campus. Like everyone's just going to go ahead and box people in according to their skin color, where they're from, how they talk. It's so childish. And I think the sooner that we can get past all this BS about like calling people different races, that's one of the most gross things to me, is if you think that black is a race or Mexican is a race, guess what you're saying? You're saying that they're a different species than human, or they're a different race than human, right? It's like you have kingdom, phylum, what is it again? I forget. I always forget the order of it, but it's like there's species, there's family, there's race. You're saying that we're a different race? Is that what you're saying when you think it's racist to talk about like black or white or what? No, that's Darwinian evolution theory kicking into your brain because you were taught that as a kid. This is that racist mentality of we're all different races of human being. No, we're all one race. We're the human race. And this is all BS. Like if you want to talk about like the differences in our skin color, perfectly valid. That's actually legitimately observable. That's real. That's tangible. And that's something that should be celebrated. It doesn't have to be like the premise. It's a boring premise for a story, frankly, because it's not something you achieve. It's something that God gave you when you were born, right? It's like when you were born, genetically speaking, you were given these genetics. You didn't earn them. You didn't work for them. You didn't achieve anything. It just is. You don't have a say in it. Your parents kind of had a say in it. You didn't have a say in it. Your parents get to decide, hey, I'm going to mate with you, and our genetics are going to come out the way they're going to come out. And then they come out, and there you are, right? It's like, that's it. So writing a story around that kind of a premise is somewhat dumb. You can make the argument that, like, you know, the struggles that may come up because some people are thinking like cavemen, and they want to treat people like less than because of what God gave them. To me, that's the dumbest thing in the world. And that can produce really great stories of overcoming those struggles. But you have to make a very big straw man like Ariel, whatever her name is, or Christine Ariel, I think her name is. You have to make a really dumb argument and suggest that all white people are racist if you want to make all black people victims, because not all black people are victims, and not all white people are victims, and not all black people are victimizers, and not all white people are victimizers. It's just not the case. It's very dumb to make that argument. It's foolishness. And it's the facts speak against it. So anyway, so Mando's Ace, I really do. I like your name, by the way. I love Mando, and Ace is my son's name. I really like that name. So you have a great name out here on YouTube. And I can't tell if that's a llama or an alpaca or something else, but I like that picture. That's great too. And I hope you can see my opinion on that. You don't have to agree with it, obviously. And if I do sound stupid, I'm sorry for that. But it doesn't appeal to everyone when you try to appeal to everyone. I'm sorry. Like it's not correct to suggest that representation in films is actually representing everybody, because you'll find that a lot of people don't want to be represented. A lot of people don't want everything to be about, oh, look at how many different kinds of people we got into this film. It's like, what if it's a film about like what if it's a film about Africa? Like, for instance, Black Panther was majority black. Like, a lot of it was. There was a lot of Asians. They had some. What was the place they went to? Was it Seoul, or was it I can't remember if it was like Thailand or something. There was a scene they had in a casino, and they went there. There was a bunch of Asian people in there as well, but also a lot of different ethnicities. There was Martin Freeman is white. They also have Andy Serkis is white. Those guys were also main characters, but majority was African genetics, but most of the actors were either British or American with black skin. And that to me is like, you can have that. Just do what the story needs, right? If the story needs it, give it to it, right? But when you make a story that is about diversity, it's like, you better have a pretty good story, and that better be the actual point of it. Because if you try to make a Star Wars story about diversity, you're trying to put something there that frankly was already there. You're missing the point, and it's a waste of that focus. It's a waste of your energy. You're focusing on something that is already there. And if you want to have more of it, I mean, you can just do it. You don't have to make it preachy. Like, for instance, like The Mandalorian had a bunch of people of all different ethnicities. They actually did have diversity. They actually did have representation, but they didn't tell you they did, right? A big part of it is just it. And I'm not telling you this, Mando's Ace, so don't get confused. Don't think I'm telling you what I'm going to say right now. I'm saying in general, as a filmmaker, if you the filmmaker can shut up about preaching about diversity, shut up about talking about race, shut up about talking about racism, and just tell good stories, you can have those things in there, but just tell the good stories and don't make the story about those things to point out the fact that you're trying to virtue signal and be like, oh, we're so much better. Look what we're doing for the community. Look what we're doing for all this stuff. The community will like you better for that, because if you try to puff yourself up, you just look like you just look like some sort of arrogant, pious, like, oh, look at me, I'm holier than thou. Like, that's what it looks like. And we know you're not, and we know that that's not the case. Like, we can see the actions that are taken when and I say you, but I mean Disney. When Disney minimizes Finn, the black guy, from the poster, because China is racist and nothing's more important to Disney than the dollar. So they're willing to just shrink him and cut him out of the trilogy as a main plot point for the trilogy. They totally sidelined him. Totally 100% just sidelined him. You're now a side character. You're just tertiary. You're no longer the main premise of this film as a co-star. No, you're a secondary. And so they sidelined Finn because they were actually racist, pretending to be all about diversity. They're not. It's false virtue signaling, and we can all tell, and we're sick of it. And that's what this has come down to, is like, when you see a company like Disney who doesn't give a rip about diversity, but they tell you they do, they're lying, and they're just going to use it as a platform to pat themselves on the back and look better without actually telling you anything that is significantly better or doing anything that is better. George Lucas did a better job with diversity than Kathleen Kennedy did. That's a fact. There wasn't more diversity. The only thing that they were able to do in the new one that they didn't do in the prequels was have a lesbian kiss. And frankly, it was cringy because they literally just threw it out there for that last shot in the film, The Rise of Skywalker. They literally just did it to check a box. They said, look, we did it. It wasn't part of the story. It didn't build the characters in any way. It just happened. And it's like, this is literally just, they're just checking boxes. They're just trying to tell the whole world, look how good we are. Look how tolerant we are. Look how diverse we are, how much representation we have. It's a joke because they don't care. If they cared, they would actually have kept Finn as a main character in the story, in the trilogy, and they wouldn't have shrunk him on the poster for China. They would have said, you know what? No, if we actually stand for these things, we're going to make sure that we back Finn. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting Finn's actor's name, but John Boyega. they would have been like, no, we back John Boyega. We stand behind him. Even if we lose some money in China for this film, I'm sorry, but these are our values. These are our universal values that aren't right or left, according to Bob Chapek. And they would have stuck beside that, and they would have just wrote it out and been like, look, we're going to make a killing everywhere else. So if we lose a little bit of money, but the story is actually really good and it actually does have, you know, it does some justice for Finn, then I think this is going to do well and we'll be doing a good job. But no, they want to feign righteousness. They want to feign virtues because that's all they have. They're fake. And so when I say that it's dumb and it's annoying that they're just trying to prioritize representation, no, they're not. They're just lying to us to tell us that they're going to do that. And when they tell you they're going to do that and they put it on the board twice, you know that they're just trying to be like, look at us, look how good we are. We're so much better than everybody else. That's what they're doing, and it's annoying. And frankly, I have a dad who belongs to you would put in one of those categories of minority. To me, he's an American patriot. He's a God-fearing man. He's better than all of you, frankly. And I love my dad. He's not a minority to me. He's the world to me. So if you want to go ahead and be like, oh, well, he's a minority group, we need to pander to him. Anyone you put in that film is not going to represent my dad, frankly. Like, you'd have to put Billy Graham in that movie to make it seem to me like that's my dad, or that's representing my family or people that I come from. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Like, and you know, if other people feel like, oh, this is doing a service to me, I hope that you stay blissfully unaware of what's really going on, because when they just try to show you, hey, look, we've got another Asian guy. Guess what they just said? You're just another Asian guy, right? It's like, they don't care about you. They don't care about your thoughts. They don't care about how you are on the inside, what your heart is, what your actual values are. They don't care if what you want to see is cowboy westerns that look like cowboy westerns from back in the day during the Bonanza era, and everyone did look like Caucasians and versus Indians, and that was kind of the way that it was back in the day, and that's what you like to see. Or for instance, like me, I love watching kung fu films. I love watching martial arts films, and I love those things. I like Scott Adkins, he's a white guy, but I love a lot of the classics, and I love like Donnie Yen's Ip Man, which is a more recent iteration of martial arts films. That one's Wing Chun. But you have, you know, the Bruce Lee films, you've got Jackie Chan, you've got Jet Li. You know, there's a bunch of different guys that make a lot of these great films. And I like those to be original. I watch them with the subtitles because I don't like the English dubs. And I like that because it has nothing to do with me. I don't want representation in those films. If I like Scott Adkins, it's because he's one of the best martial arts of today's day and age for martial arts films. But I like those things. I don't need representation in everything. It's stupid. If I want to see a culture that isn't my own, I want to see that culture. I don't want to see me in that culture. Do you understand? Like, that's part of it. And when I want to see Star Wars, I want to see Star Wars. I don't want to see just I don't want to see like the mall in Silicon Valley. Like, I want to see what can be there because it can be there, not because that person making the film thinks I need to learn a lesson about diversity, when I'm probably way more diverse than those people in my life and in the people that I love and hang out with. So like, that to me is like the most annoying thing. It's really annoying, and it's really frustrating because they're liars and they don't actually care, and their actions speak louder than their words. That's all. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this. I didn't expect to rant more about this than I already did, because I've been ranting for like 2 3/4 hours, but this has been fun. I miss this. I do want to get more open and just discuss about these things. There's a few more lines, but I can't read them right now. I got to go to bed. So you guys, I would say one more time, since we're already here, if you can, make sure to like this video if you like it. If you disliked it, you know, do what you want. It's free country, but I would ask, just like the video, leave comments after the video is done being live, so you can just help me with the algorithm so I can get seen. If you guys want to get one of these sick Fire Kathleen Kennedy shirts or mugs, then you can go ahead and click the link in the bio, take you right over here, and you can get yourself one of these sick designs from me. They're very simple, really, but it's an honest wage. So if you guys want, go ahead and pick up one of these t-shirts or mugs, masks, something like that. And that's going to help me out a lot. It's going to fund my channel and my family. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video, for sticking around for this massively long discussion. But I want to provide as much content for you guys as possible, share my thoughts and my feelings about this crazy situation and the crazy world we live in. Make sure to not forget, love thy neighbor, okay? Just like Gina Carano had shared, don't hate someone for their political views. It's one thing when we get upset, if we disagree, that's fine. Your feelings are valid, but we just shouldn't act upon those feelings in a way that's going to be harmful to others, right? Like, just say, you know what, we disagree, right? If I disagree with you, you disagree with me, that's fine. But I wish you the best. Like, I pray for blessings for you. You know, I want you to be blessed. I want you to be happy. I pray that your family and you stay happy and healthy, and you're able to succeed in your work and your life. I want good things for you. We disagree. Good. That's part of free speech. That's part of free thought, right? It's like you and me could look exactly the same and think completely different. And that's true diversity. It's intellectual diversity. That's what matters, honestly. Because all this stuff, this is flesh, this is superficial. It's, you know, what we see is not what we get. What we see is just what we're born with, who we are, and what we make of ourselves. Over time. You know, I wasn't born this fat, that's for sure. But, you know, either way, this is all just like the temporary. This is the shell around the real me. And I hope you guys can kind of see my perspective on diversity. I kind of have like a harsher tone towards it because I've been getting really fed up with all of this misinformation coming. I think it's all coming from Disney. I think Disney probably pays these creeps on Twitter to just go on these attack rage things, because why else would they care about Twitter so much? Like, why else would they care about what these mobs of angry people have to say when all they do is rage? They don't have any happiness. If you're supposedly running the happiest places on earth, why do you care about the most miserable among us who could never be satisfied with any kind of logic or information? You can't please these people. There's no way to please them. I think they're weapons. I think they're weaponized, and I'd be willing to bet who's the one wielding those weapons. So anyways, if you guys do have any coin, please drop it in the link in the description so you can get you guys some sick merch. Remember, hashtag #FireKathleenKennedy, not because we want her canceled, but because she sucks at her job, and I think that Star Wars deserves better. Hopefully Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. So you guys are the best. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night wherever you are, and stay tuned for more right here on The Stuff of Legend. Hey guys, D-Lo here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And remember to share this video with all of your nerd friends. I know you got them, and you know who they are. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about this discussion. Let me know what you would like to see me do a video on next. Subscribe to the channel because you're a legend, and we have that in common. Also be sure to turn on notifications to be notified right away when I upload my next video, or so that you can be alerted when I go live next time. That way you'll never miss a thing. Check out the other videos on the channel so that we can have a discussion on all your favorite movies and TV topics. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more right here on The Stuff of Legend.